Hey guys, how is everybody? So Jimmy Winfrey, also known as Peewee Roscoe, is supposed to be taking a plea today. So that was slated for 9 a.m. I don't see the feed up, but Kathy Rusan with Law and Crime said that Maurice is going to have the cameras on. So I'm thinking maybe it starts at 9:30. But so much has happened. Yesterday we get this, what I think is a bombshell verdict. And when I say bombshell, I mean blew up in the state's face, right? You get a full acquittal of Diamante Kendrick. You get almost a full acquittal for Shannon Stillwell. He gets stuck with count 64, which is one of those charges that Paige Whitaker gave a partial directed verdict on, saying, look, you charge it under 16-11-133, but you're missing an element. So that's not good. But I'm going to allow you to put it back with the jury as a lesser charge. Because the state stood their ground and said Shannon Stillwell is a recidivist, that constrained Judge Whitaker to sentence to the maximum. So that count carries a sentencing recommendation of 5 to 10 years. So she had to go with the 10 years, but she gave him 2 to serve with time served and probated the other 8 years. So, except for the fact that he has other outstanding cases, which Kayla Bumpus, shout out to attorney Kayla Bumpus, she's knocking those charges down. She's got one charge null pros dismissed, and got another one that I think she's already in the works of negotiating a plea with as co-counsel for Max Shart. And as soon as those get wrapped up, it looks like he'll go home. So lots of motion yesterday. In addition, and I have it in the description, I have it pinned at the top of the chat, is an interview that Mel with I'm Not a Lawyer did with 3 jurors. 1 was a deliberating juror, 2 were alternates. If you can block out 3 hours or an hour and a half if you watch on 2 times speed, it is a must watch. You can see some of the chat talking about it. These jurors, guys, and it's crazy. We have to compare this to the alternate juror that Dennis Byron interviewed. And shout out to Dennis Byron for being able to hold it down through that interview, right? So Dennis Byron interviews 1 alternate juror. I'm Not a Lawyer, Mel, has 3 jurors, 1 that actually went through to deliberations, 2 that were alternates on her show. And the contrast between these 3 and the 1 is insanely different. It's a stark contrast. This alternate juror is exactly why nobody should say, oh, somebody's stupid for taking a plea. Because if this juror went through to deliberations, she said that she would have hung this jury. She would have been a guilty vote across the board. And listening to that interview, it seems like she was there. She was ready to be a guilty from the moment she set foot in that courtroom. And what's scary, she said that she's a legal professional. She said she was like a law clerk or something. She liked Judge Glanville. She didn't really like this new judge. And when Dennis Byron tried to press her on why, she started to say, like, she didn't seem that respectful of our time. As in, she liked Glanville, like, being flexible and dragging the court case out. She thought that the lyrics painted the story of the crime. I'm telling you, when I said, look, Hilton's closing, probably, if the chat's a reflection, probably isn't going to work on everybody. But there could be a juror that's sitting there like this, just the way Love was bobbing her head. And I'm telling you, this juror that Dennis Byron interviewed, was probably that lady nodding the way that Love would have been nodding. She thought that the lyrics described the crimes. She thought that, and I hate this, I hate that she got through voir dire. And I would imagine with these attorneys, I don't know about trial science. But in the little bit that I do know, from what I've heard from other attorneys, you always want to make sure, through voir dire, that the jurors you're impaneling could change their mind based on new information. That they don't come in with the presumption that somebody is guilty just because they're already in a courtroom, clearly have been arrested before. This woman says on this interview, she goes down that path of, I'm already convinced that they're guilty because they've been arrested in the first place. So because Gaither thought something, because Dennis thought something, because Viverito thought something, that alone already told her guilty. And she said she had enough in her notebook, enough evidence written down in her notebook to vote guilty across the board for all. And it's just crazy to think about because the other three jurors, the one that went to deliberations, right? Two were alternates. Was it 252? I think 225 or 252. I think it was 225. She said that when they started weighing the charges, and it was a little hard to understand exactly what she meant. You know, sometimes when there's a whole interview talking, your thoughts skip and jump. I wasn't sure if she was talking about, you know, one specific charge or one specific person or across the board. Um, but she was asked about that RICO count, and she started to say, you know what, when we decided how to structure how we're going to do deliberations, we figured we were going to start with Diamante Kendrick with Yak's charges first because he had less charges than Shannon Stillwell. So that's how we saw that. And thank you, chat 225. Thank you guys with the assist. She broke down the structure, the decision that we're going to look through everything with Diamante Kendrick first, then go through Shannon Stillwell, and then look at the RICO count one. We'll save that for last. And after she said that, how they broke it up, she said, you know, when we started, it was 10-2. And what's interesting is she said it was 10-2, 2 not guilties, and 10 either not sure or leaning guilty. Right? So the balance before deliberations, before people got to speak and hash it out and make considerations, she said that it was 2 people that said not guilty when they got back into that courtroom, which honestly, as a criminal defense attorney, I think criminal defense attorneys would be like, yes, there's at least one. But just think about that balance and the fact that we ended with almost a full acquittal across the board, minus count 64, right? Because this jury was willing to sit there, talk, weigh things together. I think it's very good for Diamante Kendrick that this question about the watch, I think it's pretty intelligent for a juror to question, like, did he say that it was his watch? Because that could show possession. If that's what we're supposed to be looking at, that could be a basis for it, right? And the other jurors were like, I don't think that was said. Let's double check. They double check, and it seems like, according to this juror, they came back and they're all like, all right, so that's off the board, right? And I respect that. I respect that process. But this other juror, this alternate juror, I don't think would have budged. I don't think they would have gone through those motions. And Puda Bear, I was thinking when I was listening to this one alternate juror that Dennis Byron interviewed, I was thinking about Doug's chart, and I was like, that woman does not care about the reasonable doubt standard. She said she was thinking about her sons and how these kids, they didn't have their parents, and that it's destroying our communities. Like, she just started to go down this path that really echoed Hilton's closing sentiments. So it's just crazy, crazy to think about. And there's so much more we can say. Let me double check here if Law and Crime has a feed up. I do think that they're probably going to pop on 9:30, and 9 was just something I got stuck in my head, but whatever. We're here. Plus, there's so much to talk about, and there is no, and I would never not recommend you go and watch these interviews on your own. Definitely go watch them. Even Kokomo made an appearance, you guys. Kokomo got up. He talked about his reactions. He talked about what role he plays between the different teams, how he got into this space. Mel is a great host. And again, if you can, I'd recommend 99% also to watch the interview with the alternate juror. It's really important to understand that somebody like this alternate juror could be one of the jurors. If you're ever on trial, she could be one of the 12. She could be 12 of the 12, right? So that's a scary prospect. So it's just a lot. And it's interesting too, like watching the two groups, right? This side versus that side. This lady and Dennis Byron tried to prod at it. I think he picked up on it. And again, this is like the first juror that's speaking out. But I think Dennis Byron, you could see that he was picking up that, you know, there was distance between this juror and the other jurors. And this juror was like, oh, you know, I was just in the corner and kept to my business. She tried to puff it up like a good thing. Like, I'm doing the righteous thing. I'm not trying to interact with other jurors in case we talk about something that we're not supposed to talk about. Meanwhile, maybe the vibe check wasn't there. Maybe people didn't want to like kick it with you on lunch break. Maybe people just got the vibe that you were maybe thought you were better than people. She kept saying she doesn't like rap music. She doesn't listen to rap music. The last time period era of rap music that she paid any attention to was back in the 80s. And the other girls, the other jurors, one of them's like, I don't really listen to rap either, but I'm not closed-minded about it. My daughter will be in, like, I hear the speaker playing when she's in the bathroom, taking a shower, or whatever. She hears the music playing. And she gets it. She gets it because she hears her daughter listening to certain things. But this other juror, so she's like, I don't like rap, but I'm not gonna just think that lyrics are automatically a confession. And this other lady's like, I don't like rap music. It's obviously a confession. Why else would you do this? Like, it was just crazy. Crazy, crazy stark difference. So we can circle back to so much there. Let me double check on this plea. All right, I don't see anything from 11 Alive, and I still imagine it would be Maurice running the main camera pool. So I'm still seeing, I don't see it scheduled, but we'll keep checking. There's so much we can talk about anyway, but as soon as that plea hearing comes up, we'll watch it. If for whatever reason it's not televised, we'll look for the filings when they're on the record. Background on Peewee Roscoe, you guys. Jimmy Winfrey, right? This is a whole mess, right? This man was convicted, right? We associate him in this trial with the Wayne tour bus shooting, Lil Wayne tour bus shooting, right? He was charged with like 26 counts in Cobb County for this incident. He took a plea. And the prosecution, Cobb County DA, agreed to nolle prosequi, like, what's the math? Like 20 of the counts, and he pled guilty to 6, right? Then he ends up appealing his sentence, and he's successful. The Georgia Supreme Court appeals his sentence. But then he gets this YSL indictment. He's been locked up with this YSL indictment with charges related to, but slightly different, related to the same incident, this Lil Wayne tour bus shooting. So we can speed through some context here, get you guys, if you don't know the background a little bit, but want to know a little bit before we go into this plea hearing, just know that his plea deal and the state's desire to introduce it within this trial. Steele fought it. We did a rewind on that like a week or 2 weeks ago. And on day 159 of the YSL trial, when Judge Whitaker was asked to reconsider the ruling, Judge Glanville's ruling on this, this is the ruling that she said was very surprising of the predecessor judge, that he was going to allow this and did allow this to come in front of the jury. So again, if you're just joining, I'm going to say it this whole stream, pinned at the top and also in the description. In the description, there's 2 links, right? One to I'm Not a Lawyer with the 3 jurors, and one to Dennis Byron with the other alternate juror. I'd say definitely check those out. I did see a lot of people say they didn't have the stomach to listen all the way through the interview that Dennis Byron did. Not because of Dennis, but because of that alternate juror, right? So just fair warning, like, people really seemed triggered by the way she was talking about the men that were on trial. So just to put that out there. But incredible insight, really, from both. For what it's worth, very insightful to see the other side, right? I think both are very insightful, even though one was much more enjoyable to listen to. So let's see here. Jimmy Winfrey, the man accused of shooting up Lil Wayne's tour bus 3 years ago, will get another chance. Probably worth saying that this is from June of 2018. Why? Because a Cobb County judge overstepped her bounds, according to a Georgia Supreme Court majority decision filed Friday. Jimmy Carlton Winfrey appealed his 10-year prison sentence in February, claiming that Cobb Superior Court Judge Mary Staley Clark pushed him into taking a plea deal he'd previously declined by threatening him with a harsh sentence if he went to trial. A call to the judge's office was not immediately returned Friday afternoon. Winfrey will remain in custody while this case goes back to the Cobb courts, said his attorney, Steve Sadow. And I gotta get the other name, but if Beck is in here, if Kyle, there was another attorney she shouted out too, but his name's not listed here. From there, it'll be like none of this happened. Winfrey will again have the chance to take another plea deal or go to trial. Police previously said that Winfrey told investigators he shot the rapper's tour bus for a higher gang status. Although he has to start the legal process over and has happily alleged has allegedly already admitted to the crime. Sadow said his client was happy to hear about the reversal. There was a little screaming of joy, but it was a little difficult to tell over the telephone, he said. Winfrey, who goes by Peewee Roscoe, was a tour manager for rapper Brian Williams, Birdman, and had a Bloods gang beef with Dwayne Carter, Lil Wayne, that also involved a record label contract dispute. An argument between Winfrey and Carter started outside the Compound nightclub on Brady Avenue, where Carter was performing in April of 2015. Hours later, police said Winfrey driving a white Camaro, and this is what we got to hear in the YSL trial. We kept hearing about this white Camaro pulling up. We heard Detective Dennis testify to this either the first or second time he was on the stand. Not the last time he was on the stand. And if you watch this interview with the jurors, you know, they made a comment like, we kept hearing about all this stuff involving people that weren't in this courtroom. Like, it was just stupid. So, again, definitely check that out. Winfrey was indicted on 27 charges, not 26, including one involving gang violence in July of 2015. Prosecutors offered him 3 plea deals, which he declined. He was hesitant of pleading to the gang charge because of how it would affect his chances of parole. Winfrey's attorneys told the judge of his hesitance to take a plea deal, and that's when the judge got herself into trouble, the Supreme Court said. Now, this is a quote from the trial judge. This opportunity, or the plea hearing, this opportunity is going away, the judge said to Winfrey at the time. Go to trial and you get convicted, there's not going to be any of me being concerned about when you parole out. I will not be concerned about when you parole out. Then she brought up another Cobb gang case that had just finished its trial and sentencing. And if you want to look around and see what happens to people in gangs in Cobb County, Georgia, you can look at what happened last week to the guy who went to trial and got convicted. He was sentenced to 50 years in prison. We all have reputations. It jumped. Why did it just jump? Okay, hold on. The article just jumped. We all have reputations, the judge said. My reputation is not that I'm an easy judge. I know it, you know it, the whole community knows it. So if that's what you want to go up against, be my guest. All but 2 of the justices decided that, even though the judge never explicitly said Winfrey could get a harsher sentence by passing on the plea deal, the judge implied it, and that's an overreach of her duties. Even the dissenting justices agreed that the judge did cross the line when she impliedly threatened Winfrey. The difference is that the dissenters weren't given enough proof that it actually scared Winfrey into agreeing to take the plea deal. So all of the Supreme Court justices agreed that in some way or form, this judge was pushy with a threat on the sentencing and how tough she'll be at this plea hearing. The 2 dissenting judges just said, we don't think that that's the reason Winfrey decided to take the plea, though. We think he would have taken it anyway, right? So it's an error on the part of the judge, but it wasn't really the precipitator of why we have this plea deal in place. So we're not going to reverse it. That's the 2 dissenting opinions. And let's see, this is Sadow speaking now. I was always very hopeful that the Supreme Court would set some lines of demarcation for judges, and this certainly does so, Sadow said. And then there we go. There's the end of that article. I think we talked about it a little bit more in detail. If you guys want to look at the Supreme Court decision, and maybe we'll have the time to do it. So GA, link is in the chat for you guys. Let me just update the YouTube description now, because sometimes when I end these streams, I'm like hungry or have a call to return. And during the stream, I'll be like, oh, I'll put it in the description when the stream's over. And then I don't actually do it because I start doing something else. So let me update this video description right now to put this Georgia Supreme Court decision in here. Okay, so that is now in the description here. Good to go there. And thank you here. Ready Red said that the hearing is changed to 10 a.m. So thank you for that update. That's good to know. And again, we have plenty of stuff just from like the last 12 hours, 24 hours that we can talk about. Just so much with these interviews from the jurors, the movement from, hearing. We heard a little bit of buzz yesterday from the status hearing that Jimmy Winfrey was considering a plea. And Whitaker made her statement at the status hearing, like, well, there might be better plea deals on the table because, there's just a not guilty verdict. Also worth noting that the three jurors that had a discussion, obviously only one was back in deliberations, but because, as I said earlier in the stream, they structured it like, well, let's look at Yak's charges first, then Shannon's, and then we'll come back to count one. They said by the time they got done, and with Stillwell on Monday, they left with two jurors that were kind of unsure. They were on the fence about Shannon Stillwell's charges. And then they came back. She said it was almost like they slept on it. They come back, and that's why we get the note right in the middle of the status hearing. Whitaker has to recess the status hearing because we have a verdict come in all of a sudden. And I think like a lot of us felt like that. We're like, oh, is there a jury question? Oh, God, a verdict. But she said that by the time they got done with Stillwell's, and you got to remember at this point, if they're looking at not guilties across the board for Kendrick and pretty much not guilty for this like conspiracy to commit murder, all right, he gets a possession charge. Is that really a conspiracy? I know. Then they say, all right, we got to look at this count one, conspiracy to violate RICO. They're like, that was the easiest one for us to decide at that point. So by the time they put it to the end, and then by the time they got there, they said that was the easiest not guilty for them all to come to a unanimous agreement on. Isn't that such a huge L for the state? You have the DA. You have the DA making a statement after Jeffrey Williams takes his plea. She says, we have convictions on the record, and it's true, a plea deal is a conviction. But we're bragging, right? We're bragging to the public, and we're representing, it was found, right? She's representing it like a fact finder, as if a trier of fact, a judge or a jury, made this determination. She's not really clarifying in these public statements that these convictions are coming from plea deals right around the holiday season from people that are coming out of this falling apart jail, right? That's the part she's not saying in these press statements. And then she's misrepresenting it. She's saying that Jeffrey Williams pled guilty to all the gang charges. And that's not true. That's factually inaccurate. That's a misrepresentation of his plea deal. And then you finally get a jury decision. And not only does the jury return a verdict of not guilty on RICO, no gang. But then you get this interview, and they say this was the easiest thing to find not guilty on. That's like an extra salt on the wound. So, like crazy. What else? I mean, there was just so much packed into that interview, you guys. I'm telling you, all 3 hours of it. I think it was like 2 hours, 47 minutes or something. Almost 3 hours of it. Completely worth it. Now let's see. The next logical thing to talk about here. Because there's so much. There is so much. Yeah, Sleepy, it was a great interview. DJ Black Charm Music says, what up, Kat? Willis didn't get any RICO pleas. She gotta be hot. And that's what's oh, this is the next point. All right, and I think Thugger Daily highlighted a clip of this. And we are not going to do too many clip rewinds, right? I want you guys to go and watch where we should be watching. Let me pull up this clip and then switch over to the screen for it. But speaking of the way that the district attorney's office is representing things, and yesterday we read a statement from the DA's office, right? It was one sentence, guys. It was one sentence. It said, we respect the jury's decision. That was it. Like, that just shows you they know that they took a huge L. A one sentence statement from this particular district attorney's office, who doesn't seem to mind being long-winded when they want to be. We get one sentence, we respect the jury's decision. Well, guess what happened? So after deliberations, you heard Whitaker mention, she wants to, if the jury wants to speak with her, she wants to go back there and speak with them. Both parties got to go back there. Let's see. Oh, there's so much. There's just so much. Um, see. I swear Thugger Daily clipped it. Maybe he didn't. Oh, you know what? I quoted something. Okay, there's two things here. So we're going to start with this. So listen to this story. Listen to this story.
It didn't really, like, if she said she was going to admonish her or rebuke her.
Yeah.
I mean, we had already kind of written off Love, at least for me personally,
Okay.
well before that. So, like,
And this is 225. This is of the three, there's one that didn't want to be on camera,
it
so
was
she's
just
off to
kinda
the
like she-
side. This is the one that did deliberations. 508 was an alternate, and so was 387. The one off camera was an alternate.
did something else.
Did something again.
Right.
They love.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I just think, like, for her to be in her profession, and she wasn't professional at all. It was the
Yeah. We actually had to say something to one of the deputies. Like, it's very distracting.
It is.
The state making all of these facial expressions and sounds and stuff, because we were sitting closest to the state,
and I was closer
Yeah.
than anybody. So I'm like, she got one more time.
Yeah, it was very distracting to
one
see
more.
their reactions and stuff. So I mean, I'm sorry. So like through towards the end of the trial, like it was just kind of like, whatever. Even when they said.
So there you go. So the jurors found it so distracting. What they're talking about is the body language of Adrienne Love, and she'd be sitting at that state table right near the jury and going, ah, and doing that thing that she was doing. Like, the chat was commenting on it, the jury commented on it here in this interview, but they also asked the deputy, they said, look, this is distracting. So all of that motion from Love, the point I was leading up to here is after deliberations, when both parties get to go speak with the jurors are agreeable, and the jurors don't have to speak, but they can be asked to. The jurors speak with the parties that come speak with them. And the jurors in this interview, they say, when the state came back to speak with us, we have respect for Hilton because she came back there. But guess who didn't come back there? Adrienne Love did not come back to speak with the jurors. And now, if you have any care about what went wrong and you want to get it right next time, you want to do better, why wouldn't you go get this valuable feedback? I mean, the insight that they're laying down in this video, this interview, is so insightful, right? It's not every day that you get a trial where a juror speaks for more than like a few minutes in a quick little 1.5 minute interview with a news anchor, right? But here we have a 2-year trial and a 3-hour interview with 3 jurors, 3 people that sat through the whole trial. Like, incredible insight. Why would you throw that away? Like, this is a gem. This is a gem. And Mel did a great job with it on top of that. So, like, just crazy. And then you get this comment from Whitaker yesterday about Abate being left alone at the state's table for the status hearing. Like, the state just left him, ran out of there. And maybe that's when the state was busy still speaking with the jurors. But at the same time, if Love wasn't speaking to the jurors, Love could have been in there at the table with Abate. So it leaves the question of where Love was up in the air at this point. So, yeah, so Amira, so guys, and again, if you're joining late, there are 2 interviews with jurors linked in the description. I can only pin one because you have a limit of characters here. So the one on the screen right now, this 3-hour interview is pinned and it's also in the description. But this other alternate juror, not one of these 3, but an alternate juror that did an interview with Dennis Byron, that is linked in the description. It's not members only. Anyone should be able to watch it. It's about an hour long. It is so starkly different. But yes, Amira, I heard the other juror, and you may have seen, if you guys are on X, I made a post, something to the effect of, some people will walk in and believe that because somebody's arrested that's enough for a conviction. And that's a scary thought. And really, I was thinking about this juror. And this juror that Dennis Byron interviews, thank goodness that she was an alternate. There are more people out there that think that same way. Who would do this genre of rap music if they weren't actually doing these things they're talking about? Like, just a lot. Just a lot. Oh, goodness. Okay, so I saw that he had another interview that was going to publish with Ilky, but then when I saw a video clip, it looked like it was just a clip of the live interview he had yesterday. I have to watch that. I think I have that up somewhere. I have a bunch of tabs open. I know that there is a conversation between Doug and Woody, and I definitely want to check that out. I don't actually have that in a tab anymore. But I will. Oh, okay, actually, yes, I do. Yes, I do. All right, we're only going to watch a little bit. It looks like it was on maybe Attorney Star. Do you guys know whose channel this was originally on? Was it Attorney Stara? Because I see Stara in here. Oh, this says host, but I don't know who she is. So does anybody know, like, what her name is, what her channel name would be? So I can get the link. I don't want to watch the whole thing.
And y'all have, man, I love, man, I ain't gonna lie, this is like the best thing that happened. When you think it don't got worse, and it's just like, and it become the best situation that ever happened for me and them. You know what I mean? And man, I'm forever grateful for y'all. Because y'all, people don't understand, like, man, y'all sat in there fight, like, people look at y'all like y'all supposed to hate me. I'm looking at the stuff that the state doing to me. I'm looking at the position that they're putting me in. People not looking at that. Only thing people looking at is what the state want them to look at. So I had to keep my mindset strong, you feel me? And to see how y'all walking past me and speaking to me, I was like, they see me. You feel me? Like y'all notice me.
Yeah.
The state never noticed me.
Well, and Doug, the reason you were able to draw out those comments from him was because before he got on the stand, you looked at who Woody was most recently, and not who he was in 2015, because you found that in interviews, right?
Yeah, in interviews. I saw that great, I don't remember what it was called, but when Woody was on that porch or the couch, I don't remember. And I saw that in him, and I changed up my whole cross-examination of you, Woody, because I'm like, oh my gosh, look at this, like, real human you can connect with right there. And I'm like, I did everything. I threw out the book on what you're supposed to do on cross-exam. I threw it all out. I'm like, I'm just going to let Woody talk. I'm just going to let Woody be Woody because I can trust him. I know exactly what he's going to say. And I mean, just letting you be yourself and letting the jury see you and see the humanity in everybody through you. I mean, oh my gosh, what you did more for this case than anything I could do just by being you.
I'm thankful that, you know what I mean?
All right, so let me get the link to this in full. And thank you in the chat to everyone that pointed out that this is Attorney Yates. That's the host. As soon as you said that, that rang a bell. Allison Yates is a Georgia public defender. And I've seen her over on X, and I saw Doug sharing some stuff that she tweeted, and now I pieced it together now that I saw this name. I remember seeing the name on X. So first I'm sharing Allison Yates on X. And again, just instantly heart, you know, imagine being a public defender in what seems like a very strained, comparatively, right? I think a lot of public defender systems are strained. But it seems like here in Georgia, especially she's in Fulton County, seems like a tough program to be in, pulling you in all directions. Let me get that TikTok video link as well. Okay, name is Attorney Yates, so hopefully this is her. Let's see. Okay, yep, this definitely looks like her. So, and it looks like the third most recent video she did is this interview here. So, there we go. So there's that in the chat. I'll add it to the description right now. Seriously, shout out to anybody in a public defender advocacy role because it's needed and it can't be an easy job. And let's get this seal up. All right, so at least I have this up. What's the lawn crime chat saying today? Hold on. You know Love is still crying. Hilton looked like she wanted to cry. Oh boy. Lawn crime chat. Okay, Cardi case is not in Fulton but is in Georgia. See, Fatima, so I don't like playing somebody's entire content. So that's why I'm doing it in short, but here this was a YouTube upload by, well, hold on. I think Allison Yates also has a YouTube channel. Let me see if she also uploaded this to YouTube and get the video directly from her. Oh gosh. I searched Attorney Yates and the first result is this stream that we're on right now. So, okay, the search is not going to work. But, all right, so I'm just going to link the YouTube video that I pulled up that's a grab from the TikTok stream. So this is a YouTube version here of Allison Yates's group chat. But it's not her actual channel. So there you go. And totally understand. I know what it's like. I don't really get on TikTok that much. So I know what you mean. Like, it's a pain in the butt. And I know I always say, like, go look at this on X, and I know not everybody's on there. Well, I used to say voir dire, and then everybody corrected me. I had so many people tell me it's not voir dire, and that's the way I used to say it. So that's why I sound weird. Like, I think it sounds funny. I think voir dire sounds weird, and I feel like I pause every time I say it because it doesn't seem natural to say that way. So I corrected. I mean, there's a lot. Like, I used to pronounce substantive as substantive, which is more in line with how it's said. When I was growing up, a lot of my friends were from the UK, and wherever they were from, they pronounced things a different way. So I would say substantive, and the whole, like, not the whole chat, but a lot of people in the chat and the comments would be like, oh my God, it's driving me nuts. It's substantive. It's substantive. So, well, I can go back to it, but I'm just letting you know. Just letting you know. Look at a. Let me look up some. Let's do prima facie. Let's do that one next. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna watch a bunch of pronunciation videos and just in the future, whenever I pronounce it, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna say it this way. And I'm gonna say it this way another time. And yeah, I like voir dire better. Aluminum, not aluminium. We're not putting the extra I in there. Hold on, is there a weird way to say orbiter dictum? Is it not like said how it's spelled? Pronunciationism, I like that. Just say oh dear. Sabata says the detail that the jurors went into with Mel was great. The fact that they felt exactly how the chat felt, but didn't know about the ex parte was very revealing. Yeah, they didn't know, you guys. They didn't know that Judge Glanville was gone because he got recused. One of the jurors said, it just assumed, like, because of everything, like the context, he had the dog, that maybe it was his health. So... Okay, but this is hard. So dictum, like I don't say tomb or Tom. Ugh. Yeah, looking at wherever that phrase was, that's not how I would think to pronounce that. No wonder you were asking. Dictum. Heck yeah, A for Alyssa. Do we need to do the ABCs of Steel? Oh, so the jurors, when they were talking, I don't know what it was. I don't know how it came up, but one of the oh yeah. So they were talking about, they showed when Ashley Merchant and Alex Souser were arguing with Glanville about the contempt for Brian Steele. They showed the jurors the clip that last night. Mel showed them the clip, and Mel was explaining, like, well, he didn't actually get held. He didn't actually go to be held in the cell with Jeffrey Williams, actually held in contempt in a cell, because they filed with the Georgia Supreme Court. They reversed it, whatever. And she said, like, his wife Colette is an attorney. And 225 was like, see, as in Colette? Like, she said it right away. Oh, man. Yeah, okay, Shamina, this makes me feel better. It's pronounced both ways. Yeah, and she said it. As soon as she heard Mel say his wife Colette, juror 225 said C for Colette. That was a whole time. All right, just making sure that's live. One other thing I think that might be interesting to talk about, if you guys heard mentioned yesterday, it was a bit difficult to follow because we've got to learn the faces, the names, the voices of the new set of defendants and attorneys, and they weren't showing faces yesterday for all but 1 second. But we heard a bit about a request from Christian Eppinger's attorney that they want transcripts, and they want transcripts to impeach somebody. Right now, Christian Eppinger is the one that's accused of shooting Officer Rogers. And they mentioned, we had this immunity motion that we filed. And I went and looked at the dates yesterday. Now, this immunity motion is basically before a case goes to trial. You make an argument that this case shouldn't be prosecuted. We should be immune from prosecution on this, and then you give a basis for why. So the basis is the affirmative defense of self-defense, and then also they say defense of habitation and or defense of others. So they file this immunity motion, and when you look at the date, it says April 2nd, 2024. And I don't see an order, I don't see a response, I don't see anything on the record for this from April. This was filed in April. And there was a different status hearing back in May 15th, where the judge, and it may have been McBurney, but checking the status of everybody, no motions for these other co-defendants, but for Christian Eppinger, it's notated this is more than 30 days after this immunity order was filed. This immunity motion was filed. Motion to bar the above referenced case based upon immunity from prosecution, filed on April 2nd. This motion is contested. The state has not responded yet. So I saw this, and I'm thinking, like, this is over 30 days. This is almost a month and a half later, going from April 2nd to May 15th when we get this status order update. And the state hasn't responded to it yet. And now we're in December, and the attorney is saying, look, that's still outstanding. Factual lie just says shock. But yeah, so this is still open. We don't have a response from the state. And what's kind of hilarious is back in April, they hadn't done the testimony on the stand of, like, the dash cam records keeper, the custodian for the dash cam for that incident. They hadn't had Rogers on the stand. Now they have that testimony. It's gone through trial. So now they're doing this. They're going to do this hearing, and make these oral arguments for this, bar prosecution. We have immunity. We're claiming self-defense. Now they have all of these transcripts, or they should have, they're requesting them, of this testimony that took place, what, I don't know, maybe like September or October of this year. So, kind of a dumb move from the state, if you ask me. Because I think following the chat sentiment, we have the officers try to represent that they announced, or Rogers announced who he was when he was getting out of the vehicle and trying to apprehend Christian Eppinger. But then we see those videos, and majority of the chat was like, he didn't announce anything. He just said, get on the ground. So, I don't know. I don't think waiting is going to end up being a good strategy for the state on this one. Although I don't know. This is kind of like, it's a big hurdle, right? Don't prosecute me because we were acting in self-defense. I mean, we see self-defense trials where a defendant is asserting self-defense go to trial all the time. It's not just a guarantee that someone's going to be like, oh, you're claiming self-defense, so nope, you can't be prosecuted. So do I think this is really going to, I don't know. But what a dumb move for the state to just sit on this and wait when they know that the testimony, they plan to introduce as much inflammatory material from Christian Eppinger as they can in this trial against the 6 co-defendants at the time. You know you're going to do it. You know you're going to call these witnesses. Why would you leave this outstanding? So I was like, this is just nuts. And if you want to look at it, it's just a standard application, a standard motion. And it was definitely a template because they forgot to swap a name here, which isn't very good. And they didn't spell his name right. What is with this whole county? Caleb Bumpus, you did the same thing when you spelled Fulton County, which, to be fair, who cares if you spell Fulton County wrong at this point, right? Maybe they deserve it. But Happily Angry Lawyer is always pulling things with pretty big typos. We have the defendant's name spelled wrong here by his own attorney. We didn't swap out this template name Aaron Scott when it's supposed to say Christian Eppinger. And I make typos a lot too, but just saying. But anyway, if you want to take a look at this, link here, and get the link for you guys. And Somnus Viverum, sorry if I'm spelling your name wrong. Anything that looks Latin, I'm scared to say today. Why would you not do this? Do you mean that, like, respond to this? Good. Okay, I'm just going to go back to voir dire because voir dire sounds stupid to me. It's good to always proofread. Yeah. Oh boy. And big shout out here, Factual Lie. Also, wow, Factual Lie, 6 months. We've known each other so long. So glad that you've been here. And thank you for the reminder, guys. Don't forget to hit that like button. Touche says, saw you in some other chats yesterday, Kat, but I was lurking and couldn't say hi. Look, guys, if you saw me in Mel's chat or anybody in Mel's chat, that thing was moving so quickly. I think at one point there were 14,000 people in there. It was bananas in there. And just a word as a creator to an audience. We really don't see every single comment that comes through. I would say it gets to that point when the chat is like, imagine if there was a live stream right now, there's 2,000 people in here and something's happening on screen. There's a lot more to react to. 2,000 people can sometimes be that saturation point for being able to kind of catch the general thing that's going on in the chat. Mods are so important. Shout out to the mods. Mel had 14,000 in her chat, and this is a scenario where you have 3 people on the screen that everybody wants to ask questions to. And I would say it was really not helpful, the number of people that kept trying to repeat the same question over and over and over, especially when some of the questions were things that were answered and discussed previously. So, as a general way, everybody can make a chat room better, especially when it's busy, and busy for a reason, right? If you come into a stream late, have some understanding that things may have been discussed already. Don't keep hitting that spam button just to get a question answered, because when there's 14,000 people in the chat, chances are, if it's going to get answered, it's because it's a question that everybody's looking to see anyway. It was a lot. Yeah, cut the radio, like, and shout out to Mel because she carried an interview very well. I think she hit a home run with a lot of the questions she was asking in general, trying to get, the things that the chat wanted. She hit those points anyway. But it was a lot in there. So just understand from chat side that it's not easy sitting up here on StreamYard to try to host and be engaging with your guests. And it's a lot when there's 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 in this chat. Mel had 14,000, and that chat was like, I barely saw Steph JK get in there. I saw her little name pop up, and I was like, Steph JK, and I don't even know if she saw it because it was just going. It was just going. So, that, and Corey, I do believe that there were, and I don't know, maybe not this particular question that you're referring to, but I do know that the creators, I think their name was Surviving YSL on YouTube. They're going to do their own video. And I can put this up on the screen. We're not missing anything, guys, but just so you know. I think it was Surviving YSL. Let me see. And they really only have their, like, one video showing that they are the jurors. And I'll put that in the description. So if you're watching this on replay, look in the description for Surviving YSL. All right, so that is also in the description there. And shout out to them because they already have, this is just from Mel's stream. If this doesn't give you an idea of how busy Mel's stream was yesterday, they started their channel, do this interview, an exclusive with Mel, and they have 5.66 subscribers. Like, they'll probably have 6,000 by the end of today, right? Especially if they do another piece of content, they'll probably skyrocket through this, but they might be reserving certain thoughts or comments to do their own video here. But they really gave so much insight on that interview with Mel anyway. So please don't take what I'm saying as maybe they're reserving certain questions for their own content to mean that it was a light vanilla interview yesterday. They really shared a lot. Back to the thing. Lori Walker says you got in trouble, you missed your wife's text. I was there watching that for like, I joined like 30 minutes late because I was finishing up, Thugger Daily was doing a Spaces. And like, I ended up leaving that a little early to not be too late to Mel's stream. And I had to like 2 times to catch up. And by the time I got caught up, the chat had grown. So it was like, I couldn't even keep up with what people were talking about in the chat. But it was really, really, really like just kind of cathartic to have that whole conversation, right? For everybody to talk about it after the verdict, after 2 years. And also to have the jury, at least the one made it to deliberations, to have her reflect what so many of us were thinking, to see that certain things were picked up on. She talked about the brake lights on Shamel Drink's car. She talked about how it didn't seem all right that Al Hogan just ignored this other car until it's pointed out to him on cross. She pointed out how, wait, Al Hogan's back again? Well, we saw how he handled the little rod thing. Like, really, really astute. Really good observations. So, the Dennis Byron interviews in the description. Here is the link. This link should take you to the timestamp, but if not, it's 55 minutes in that it starts. So, Corey Walker, the reason I'm not going to lie, I thought this was kind of a stupid question because when did the jury see Kayla? The whole chat kept asking about Kayla, but if you think about it, the jury was outside the presence. The jury wasn't there when Kayla came in and said she wanted to be like let off the case, wanted to be released. The jury wasn't there when she was on the stand. So the jury might not even know Kayla aside from maybe saying they could see her in the room. But the jurors did describe like where the glass window was, you know, that they could, some of them could see more of the gallery than others could see depending on how they were positioned in the jury seating. So maybe some of them were able to see and notice her in the gallery several days and would be like, oh, I didn't know that that lady was married to someone sitting on the defendant's side. But at the same time, they just wouldn't have the context that she was an attorney, that she represented Woody. The question could have been, rather than, did you know Kayla was married to Shannon Stillwell? I guess maybe a question could have been talking more about the ex parte representing Woody, who was represented for a stand-in, right? It wasn't actual representation in that moment. But as stand-in counsel by Kayla Bumpus, and that same attorney ends up marrying one of the attorneys. I mean, it would have been a long-winded question, but at the same time, you would have had to give so much context to the jurors because there's nothing for them to know who Kayla is. So, and I really think that like the people spamming that question, ask about Kayla, didn't think about that, didn't think that, well, the jury doesn't know who Kayla is. So, mayhaps. Yeah, so Brittany Gibbs says when he was testifying, she would have just been sitting in the gallery. Sort of. But she was only there for the ex parte. I don't know. Didn't she come in that same day, that same Monday, and ask to be released? Right, so I'm not even sure if that. I think when I'm saying sitting in the gallery, I mean in like the public, the audience gallery. I don't even mean sitting there as an attorney representing Woody when he was on the stand, because I think she already asked to get out of there. Right when he got back on the stand on Monday, before like his testimony resumed. So this is true. Kayla wanted to know what they thought about her. This is true. Yeah, but this was outside the presence of the jury, though. So what I'm saying is they would have had to have so much context laid out for them to even get to a point of like, oh wow, there's an attorney married to a defendant. Like maybe they could have had a reaction to that more generally. Oh, maybe we recognize that person sitting in the gallery. But to get up to the level of interest and tea that the chat already had in their own tea kettles, it would have taken a lot of context laying. Oh, they did not like Viverito. They did not like Viverito, you guys. They were like, just stop. She was a no. They did not like her answers about the watch. They specifically said, you didn't put that back up on the shelf. So, you know. And let's see. Yeah. I am the rock says the foundation wasn't laid. Exactly, exactly. Hilarious. Oh, yes, this is a good point, too. They heard Gaither's hot miking. And they said they heard it the first time she was on the stand. And when she came back, they were like, oh. And then they also said they thought it couldn't get any worse than Gaither and then Viverito. There was Viverito. Like, and what's crazy about that is, I don't know, I do feel like Gaither may have been embarrassed to be shown on the thing. Like, maybe she didn't have pride in the work that she did. But I feel like more so for Viverito, I feel like Viverito didn't want to be shown because she didn't want to she didn't want the deceit to show through. I think she was concerned about her facial expressions not being believable. I think there was slightly different reasoning for Gaither and Viverito, although maybe a little bit of an overlap, my opinion. But they mentioned those hot mics. They could hear it clear. Just her sitting there. Crazy. A PD broker, I agree. They took their job seriously. They used common sense and it paid off. And again, I think that these defendants are lucky that that one alternate juror was an alternate. So Ghost, this might be true for some of them, that they were asking on purpose to try to catch the jurors up. They were trolls trying to be messy. But I think the vast majority of them wanted to know about Kayla. Just speaking from experience with how many people I see get into any other YSL stream, and when there's even a slight reference or random thing happened last night, the chat's always just ready to ask, like, what happened with this? What happened with this? What happened with this? And similarly, the chat also was asking for a shorter block of time. It wasn't as voluminous, but oh, did they know about the, like, Quindarius Zachary and Demeke Garlington's auntie and Gaither? Like, again, you'd have to lay a bit of context there to spell that out, because they weren't here online to see the tea, the conversations, the speculation. Yep, Corky Marie, yep. And to be clear, the juror even said, like, you know, we get back in the room and that was it. Like, they wanted the one person wanted some clarification. They said looking at a lot of stuff was just, like, more for clarification of, like, one or two people. And the lyrics, the funniest part about the lyrics is they said it was one juror that wanted to hear the songs, and they said that it wasn't their first language. English wasn't their first language. So they wanted to repeat the lyrics. It wasn't like all 12 of them were sitting there going, oh, the drop top convertible, and dropping people on the curb. It was just the one. So just the whole time. But again, big shout out here. I mean, that was awesome over in I'm Not a Lawyer's whole stream was awesome. Again, Kokomo made an appearance at the end, and I thought it was really cool to see. Mel was like, oh, like, what are you? Like, what's your title? Can you just, like, tell us? Can you, like, give us something to call you? So he goes through his, like, you know, when I was 17, I already knew that I wanted to be an attorney, and I was doing this work. I ended up meeting Max Shart. I thought he was, like, really great at what he did, like watching him in other trials. He's always, like you see him now, he's just such a good attorney. Called him a super lawyer, which made me laugh because in my brain, super lawyer is a certificate you can pay a fee for and they give you a certificate for it. But he used it as a true term of endearment, right? So I had to separate my own conceptualization of what a super lawyer actually is or isn't. And his true, I think it was genuine endearment, said that Shart was a super lawyer, and got to go through his story. So I thought that was great. Just great all around. So make sure you guys watch that. It is pinned. It's also in the description. You know, at this rate with this hearing here, you could have, if you were on two times speed watching that, you could have been 2/3 of the way through Mel's whole interview. Yeah, Shalia says they saw what I saw, an Impala, not an Infiniti or a Pontiac. Yep, they just didn't. Oh, and they said that they thought the state was crazy for calling that one Infiniti witness, the one that was like a salesperson. Not the Hertz rental people, but specifically the one that, like, identified the Infiniti from the blurry picture. They thought that was so, like, just bunk. Like, just like the chat did. Like, the whole chat that day was like, what? Oh, my goodness. Nicole, so great point, and the jurors said this too. Charging guys with crimes from 10 years ago is crazy. Why weren't they tried then? They also said, and this was like, I think this conversation came up because they said, at first we thought that Steele was long-winded, and, they shared. It was so funny. They're like, who are your favorite attorneys on either side? And they were listing off, they were going through all the defense attorneys. And then Mel had to be like, what about the state? What about the state? And like, usually they'd be like, I definitely don't like Love. Hilton, I want to say she got on my nerves at the closing, but, I try to I think one said that they have sympathy for her. She was working with what she had to work with. She was trying to do her best. And then like Atkins was okay. He tried to keep it short and sweet. And then they said, is his last name Johnson? Not BBL Brown. Don't start, chat. Don't start. Because Mel's whole chat started saying BBL Brown when the juror was talking about the other guy. It was not Brown. Johnson, Steven, something. I never remember his name. But you didn't see him question too many witnesses. And when he did, he was like, all right, thanks. 4 questions and done. Smith, okay. Thank you, guys. And she was like, I appreciated that because it was just like, move it along. But they did say that they thought Steele was a little bit long-winded. And it's interesting because remember, they don't see the behind the scenes. So in these moments where you'd hear Brian Steele arguing case law, if you're like, well, that's really where he shines, the jurors don't get to see those moments of the trial. So, I had a reason, something about him being long-winded. I don't remember it now. Well, maybe it'll pop back up. Oh, yes, I remember. They said that these guys, and they said the hybrid gang theory was crazy. Like, how do you not have a leader? How do you just not have a leader? That was like a garbage definition of how gangs in Atlanta supposedly work. And that these guys just seem like they had a rough upbringing. They tried to make it. What money are they supposed to have? They pointed out that on the jail calls, it sounds like they were broke at some points in time. Rather than having a bunch of money, like they're running this enterprise. We don't see the enterprise, which is a reflection of like everything that the chat says throughout this trial. And that's when I think the conversation about the way Steele delivers it and makes the point, just like the McDonald's footage. They said, we know that if it's not Steele, I guess when Steele was no longer in this trial. All right, we have some words. They're going to hear about that McDonald's video.
Good morning. Have y'all had enough time to talk? We ready? Okay. All right. Is this a negotiated plea? All right. Go ahead. Would you like us to stand at the podium or? It doesn't really matter. The table's fine. Yeah, do please use the mic. Okay. Can you hear me okay? You can hear me, Madam Court Reporter?
This is the reporter versus Mr. Jimmy Winfrey, a.k.a. Mr. Roscoe. He's charged in indictment 22 SC 183572, counts 1, 24, 25. And just for your honor's edification, the state will be dismissing count 26.
Okay. And I don't actually have a copy of the indictment in front of me. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Mr. Winfrey, if you'll raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give in the matters pending before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Can you state your true, correct, and legal name for the record, sir?
Jimmy, J as in jam, I as in igloo, M as in money, M as in multi, and Y as in young. Middle name Carlton. C is in currency, A is in Atlanta, R is in rich, L is in long, T is in Tommy, O is in options, N is in Nancy. The last name is Winfrey, W is in win, I is in incomplete, N is in Nancy, F is in free. R is in royalty, E is in entertainment, and Y is in young. Jimmy Carter.
That was entertaining.
That was creative.
Thank you.
Are you at this time taking or under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or medicine, sir?
No, sir.
Is there any medication that you take regularly or on a daily basis that you have not taken today that would affect your ability to understand why you're before this honorable court?
No.
And Mr. Winfrey, can you tell me how old are you, sir, and how far have you gone in school?
I'm 34 years old. I made it with the 8th grade education. When I went to prison, I obtained a high school diploma through Stratford Institution,
Okay.
private college.
So you have your GED?
High school diploma.
Okay. And are you able to read, write, and understand the English language, sir?
Yes.
Do you understand that you are charged with the following offenses? In indictment 22 SC 183572, count 1, RICO, count 24, which is the violation of the Drug Act for the possession of oxycodone, and then count 25, which is the possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. And then you understand that the state will be null crossing count 26.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions about that for your attorney, Ms. Miller?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you understand that you have the right to plead either guilty or not guilty to these charges? And if you pled not guilty or remain silent, you may receive a jury trial.
Yes, sir.
Have you had enough time to understand and speak with your attorney, Ms. Miller, about all the facts and circumstances of your case and why you're here today?
Yes, sir.
And do you need any additional time to discuss any questions or concerns that you have in relation to the plea that you're before this court to take today?
No, sir.
And are you satisfied with the services that Ms. Miller's provided?
Absolutely.
And Ms. Miller, do you waive formal reading of the indictment?
I do.
As well as any defects in the indictment, including any with respect to your client's name for the purposes of this plea?
I do.
And Mr. Winfrey, has your attorney advised you of the minimum and maximum sentence for each charge you'll be pleading guilty to?
Yes, sir.
And did Ms. Miller advise for count 1, the conspiracy to violate RICO, the minimum is 5 years, the maximum is 20 years?
Yes, sir.
And for the possession of oxycodone, did she advise the minimum is 1 year, the maximum is 3 years?
Yes, sir.
And lastly, for count 25, did Ms. Miller advise that the minimum for possession of a firearm by a convicted felon is 1 year, the maximum is 10 years?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you have any questions about the minimum and maximum sentence you could potentially be facing based on your plea of guilty here today?
No, sir.
Okay. And Mr. Winfrey, do you understand this is a negotiated plea of guilty, which means the state and your counsel, Ms. Miller, will make a joint recommendation to the court as it relates to a sentence, but the court does not have to follow that sentence and can sentence you to the maximum on each charge and run the maximum for each charge consecutively or one after another if she sees fit.
Yes.
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 And do you understand that this plea may be used to enhance sentencing on other convictions in this jurisdiction as well as in other jurisdictions, including the federal court, sir?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Winfrey, do you understand that if you're not a United States citizen, a guilty plea will affect your immigration status and will result in deportation, regardless of any advice given to you by your attorney or anybody else?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand that you waive any and all defenses by entering a plea of guilty here today?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Winfrey, do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up the following rights: the right to trial by jury, the right to remain silent and to not incriminate yourself, the right to confront witnesses against you, the right to the assistance of counsel hired by you or court appointed if you were unable to afford an attorney at the trial of your case, the right to presumption of innocence, the right to testify on your own behalf and to present other evidence, the right to subpoena witnesses and to compel the production of evidence, the right to have the charges against you proved beyond a reasonable doubt by the state of Georgia, and the right to appeal if convicted of these charges after trial. You understand that you are waiving or giving up all of those rights by pleading guilty here today?
Yes, sir.
And has anyone, Mr. Winfrey, forced, threatened, or promised you anything to get you to enter a guilty plea before this honorable court here today?
No, sir.
And is it your decision to waive these rights and enter a guilty plea because you're in fact guilty?
Yes, sir.
And as it relates to the charges, how do you plead to count 1 and indictment number 22 SC 183572, conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act?
I plead guilty, Your Honor.
And how do you plead to count 24, the possession of oxycodone?
I plead guilty, Your Honor.
And lastly, how do you plead to count 25, which is possession of a firearm by a convicted felon?
I plead guilty, Your Honor.
And Mr. Winfrey, is this guilty plea freely and voluntarily given with full knowledge of all the charges against you, sir?
Yes, sir.
And do you understand that you may only have a limited right to appeal this guilty plea conviction?
Yes, sir.
And do you understand that you have only 4 years from today for a felony charge to file what's called a habeas corpus petition challenging the voluntariness of this guilty plea?
Yes, sir.
And is that something that you and Ms. Miller spoke about before today and that you fully understand?
I'm understanding all my rights of the guilty plea.
All right, let me just add, in addition, you have 30 days from today to file a direct appeal, and you have until the end of this term of court to file a motion that would seek to withdraw your guilty plea. Doesn't mean any of those would be granted, but those are the time limits. Understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Judge. And Your Honor, this time I believe you have the indictment, but I would tender the indictment.
Yes.
Had the case proceeded to trial, again, as it relates to this defendant, Mr. Winfrey, the state would have been able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that between the dates of January 24th, 2013, and May 18th, 2022, Mr. Winfrey did participate and conspire while being associated with YSL to acquire directly or indirectly interest in United States currency and other personal property through a pattern of racketeering, as well as did conspire to conduct and participate directly and indirectly through that enterprise of YSL through a pattern of racketeering in through the furtherance of the conspiracy by or with the objectives of preserving, protecting, and enhancing the reputation of YSL and the power and territory of that enterprise through the racketeering activity, which included murder, assaults, and other threats of violence, as well as obstructing law enforcement investigations and court proceedings through witness intimidation and attacks upon law enforcement, Your Honor. As it relates to counts 24 and 25, the factual basis that would be for the plea on both of those counts. Mr. Winfrey on July 10th of 2021 was pulled over here in the city of Atlanta. A traffic stop was conducted while he was in a 2021 Dodge Durango. During the traffic stop, the officer smelled a strong odor of marijuana, to which at that point the vehicle was searched, and there were several grams of marijuana, which he's not charged with, found in the car in a book bag, as well as 5 pills that were later tested by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, testing positive for oxycodone. Also within the glove compartment of the vehicle, a Glock 21 45 caliber handgun was located. Mr. Winfrey had a prior felony conviction out of Cobb County for participation in criminal street gang activity and aggravated assault and other related charges as it relates to the shooting of Lil Wayne's.
So, and that's like just such a tricky mess, right? So I don't know if he's blurring this line together, but is he saying that the firearm possession was unlawful because he was a convicted felon, because he had the convictions from Cobb County relating to this bus shooting? Not really sure how he's doing that, or if he had prior convictions before that, because he was in custody this whole time. So maybe he's just mincing words.
Tour bus, Your Honor. That would be the factual basis as it relates to the charges in which Mr. Winfrey is pleading guilty here today. As I did state, he does have that felony conviction. There's one other felony conviction out of Florida. There was also a drug conviction where he was sentenced on November 5th, 2020, and successfully completed that sentence, which ended on November 4th of 2023.
Okay, so with regard to him not having any contact with future witnesses, are you gonna put a list together for me to put in the conditions?
Yes, Your Honor, we will provide the same list that we used during the prior pleas as
Okay.
it relates to Mr. Williams. I'll give those to
All right.
Mr. Roscoe.
Okay. Okay, so, and what is the recommended sentence for the other two counts?
Concurrent sentence, Your Honor, of as it relates to count 24, 2 years to serve, credit for time served, at least in time served, and as it relates to the possession of a firearm, convicted felon, 7 years probation to run concurrent with count 1.
Okay.
Well, 7 years probation for RICO count
Ms.
1.
Miller, is there anything the defense wants to put on the record?
Yes, Judge, thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Winfrey is prepared to take this plea today. As Your Honor is aware, he has been in custody continuously for 18 months. Our position is certainly counts 24 and 25. He was in possession of the pills and the marijuana, and the gun was in the car. As it relates to the RICO, he did want to make clear to the court, understanding the nature of a conspiracy, much of that stuff that he is not charged with, he does not have specific knowledge of. However, he does understand that there is a sufficient factual basis for his plea to the RICO count. And, you know, as one could imagine, he is ready to go home and put this behind him. He has known Jeffrey Williams since he was a little boy. They grew up together in the same community, the Cleveland Avenue community. And much of this, as we have learned, started as kids who were friends and developed into a good deal of success for Mr. Winfrey and Mr. Williams in the music industry. That is what I would like the court to focus on. Mr. Winfrey has been gainfully employed in the music industry as a management professional. He manages talent. He also has successfully booked and promoted tours. That is the line of work that he will continue to be in while he is on bond. Of course, you know, he has a criminal history, and so his options for employment are somewhat limited, but he has carved out a profession in this world, and he looks forward to continuing that. There are many other artists that he works with, and he hopes to re-engage in that upon his release. My understanding from just to clarify for Mr. Winfrey, you know, to the extent that, for example, if Mr. Winfrey is working with Kendrick Lamar, who is a famous artist, and you know, Jeffrey Williams, should he be on a tour together, that the no contact means no personal contact. There may be occasions where they are in the same arena together because of a tour that involves multiple artists. I don't know that this will happen, Judge, but I am anticipating this and just want to be really clear for Mr. Winfrey's sake and for the record's sake that the prosecutor is intending for there to be no personal contact between these two individuals for the duration of Mr. Winfrey's sentence and or Mr. Williams' sentence. As I understand, he has a similar condition. What we don't want is if, for example, Mr. Winfrey is able to book a tour with another artist whose management company is negotiating with him, and it relates to Mr. Williams, that he would be in violation. He just wants to understand the scope of it. I've discussed this with the prosecutor. The prosecutor has indicated that his intent with this no contact is no personal contact, no personal phone calls, no personal text messages, no personal communications with Mr. Williams for the duration of his sentence. But it does not mean that if, for example, there is a professional opportunity where his lawyers are negotiating with Mr. Williams's lawyers, that would not be, for example, a violation of his bond. And just wanted to make that point for the record, Your Honor. But he is absolutely understanding that no contact means no personal contact whatsoever. And to the extent there is a professional reason to have contact, that will be done through third parties with Mr. Williams's third-party representatives. In addition to that, for clarity's sake, Mr. Winfrey understands that he is to have no possession whatsoever of any firearms. However, due to the nature of his work, there are occasions where professional security are hired, and I mean professional licensed security companies, as well as off-duty officers who may be around him and in possession of a gun. I've discussed this with the prosecutor. The prosecutor agrees that the no possession of a firearm certainly means no personal possession for Mr. Winfrey, but would not be implicated if, for example, a off-duty officer is working security. This does not mean, to use the prosecutor's expression, peanuts on security, he has a gun. The understanding is that the security would be a professional licensed security company.
Hold on. We couldn't pick a different name for the example here. Stop.
And or an off-duty officer.
Of
But
all
with those two
names.
clarifications, Your Honor, we would ask that the court accept the plea as negotiated.
All right, and is that an accurate rendition of the understanding of the special conditions? All right, and can y'all clarify for me how long Mr. Winfrey has been in custody on these charges?
Judge, the screen is showing August 13th, 2023, the booking screen. Not sure what it was before then.
July 13th.
So about 17 months?
That's accurate, Judge.
All right, so are y'all intending for the 2 years to be commuted to time served?
Yes, Your Honor, we could do, if you'd rather, well, you did a year, we could do 10 serving.
16 months?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right, I find there to be a factual basis for this plea, and I accept it as freely, knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily entered with an understanding of all of the consequences, and I am going to sentence in accord with the recommendation as just modified on count 1, 10 years to serve 16 months with credit for time served, balance probated. On count 2, are we just saying 16 months to serve, credit for time served? And on count 3, not count 2, count 24, the second count. And then
They
on
said
count
yes.
25, 7 years probation, all of those sentences to run concurrently. Special conditions of your probation, you're to have no personal or social contact with any of the co-defendants in this case, and no contact whatsoever with any of the witnesses in any future trial on this indictment. You need to maintain lawful employment throughout the period of your probation, and you may not possess any firearms, with the exception that you are allowed to be around professional security with firearms to the extent that that's necessary for your lawful employment. And with regard to the no contact with the co-defendants, again, there's the exception for what is necessary for your lawful employment with regard to, being around them, but there's to be absolutely no personal or social contact, and to the extent possible, any work necessitated contact should be through third parties. All right, and then any technical violations can be handled by probation's options management. I'm going to have, hopefully there won't be any other violations, but back to me with any violations. And I'm going to tell you some version of the same thing that I said to Mr. Williams. You are in an industry where a whole lot of young people watch with great attention every detail of everything that y'all do on and off stage. And with that kind of influence and audience, you really should be trying to set a good example and an example to young kids to do something other than what, you know, you grew up with that landed you in jail very early in your life. And I commend you for having taken the time that you were in jail to further educate yourself and things like that. But, you know, y'all are very influential and try to use that for good. All right. Good luck to you.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Yes.
Mr. Winfrey wanted to say something to Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
First and foremost, I'd like to thank God, Your Honor. I thank you for giving me a second chance at life. And I understand totally what you said, and I was speaking to Tanya about that as well, as far as making a positive influence and allowing myself to be fruit to my community instead of poison, the way that we grew up, of the way that we thought was right, and we learned what is right. And so now I'm trying to apply right, and I appreciate you for helping me take the first step towards that. And I won't let you down by being the change. I'm going to start by changing with myself. And thank you.
Good. Thank you. Best of luck to you. All right. Thank you, Ms. Miller. Thank you, Mr. Abadi. All right. We'll see y'all at least back on the 17th, if not before. If y'all have any other pleas in the meantime that are ready to be presented, just let my chambers know. All right. Thanks. Yes. And let me give you your copy of the indictment back.
So we'll leave this open. We will leave this open in case the camera pops back up. Who knows? They might just cut the camera off entirely, but you never know. You know, seems, I mean, I guess we could already guess before seeing this today, but it seems like that's another reiteration here that plea negotiations are underway. Judge Whitaker yesterday did say December 17th, let's meet again as a final opportunity for any pleas, a deadline, because we really want to get this remaining trial kicked off by February, right? We're not going to keep putting this off. So what's interesting is she had somewhat recently denied a renewed speedy trial motion, and her basis was it was outside of the time frame from which, I think it was Eppinger that filed it, where it was outside the time frame from which he should have filed it. But at the same time, she's making a speedy trial happen. I think that's just her thing. And I don't, you know, it's kind of weird. What do you guys think about this pep talk? We saw her do it with Jeffrey Williams, and you know, my stance on it is I feel like there might be valid points. It's a good conversation to have, but the venue to have that pep talk up on the stand from the judge's bench is a little awkward. It doesn't seem to fit the venue. But at the same time, in this scenario, I think Jimmy Winfrey, Peewee Roscoe, he received it. He engaged with it. But it still just kind of feels weird to hear. You'd expect that type of pep talk, you know, we're doing like a podcast and we're talking about things, and obviously kids can look up to their mentors, and those mentors could be music artists, right? That's a conversation we can have, but it just seems weird. It just seems weird to see from that bench. And I think the reason it bothers me is because in a way, I just feel like it gives some weight to the preconceived notions that, like, Juror 409, the juror from the Dennis Byron interview, the alternate, it gives some weight to what Viverito and Underwood think about lyrics. It gives some weight to what the state tries to put forth about lyrics and who's responsible for what those words might be interpreted to mean by others, other than the artists themselves saying them. And I hate that slight bit of weight that it gives that concept, right? You know, I don't think that if an artist chooses to have accountability for the way somebody else interprets their words, that seems like that artist's prerogative. It doesn't seem like something that the state or a judge should have, you know, some type of pressure to exert over. Although I get that it's with a positive intent. So I don't know, it's just kind of a complicated thing, and it just feels a little bit like, I get where you're going, and I get that you mean this is a positive pep talk, and I'm glad that Jimmy Winfrey received it. But at the same time, I really don't want this line to be crossed where the judge and or the state think that somebody interpreting someone's song, the way somebody else, a listener, interprets someone's song, necessarily makes the artist responsible for what that person does with that interpretation. I think that's we need to keep that line defined and make sure we're not crossing that. So, and again, I think it's an important conversation, but I just don't think that any tribunal, any government body, prosecutor should have the power to prosecute someone for the way someone else interprets a form of expression, unless it's clearly a direct threat or whatever. So, just my opinion. Well, and Honeybee, so I think Marilyn Manson has had a lot of flack for this. But at the same time, and this is one of the things that came to mind, right? I don't think that that's fair to hold against Marilyn Manson or anybody else. At least not, like, if you have an opinion, if you just don't like certain songs or you don't like a certain artist, whatever. But again, if there were to be a prosecutor to come in and say, look, we want to criminally prosecute Marilyn Manson, right? So kind of two different buckets, right? Someone's opinion of a song, whatever, different bucket. But for a prosecutor to come in and say, like, look, we want to prosecute you for your lyrics because they talk about things that could be criminal, like, I think we should reject that. I think we should absolutely reject that. And I just think it's I don't know. And I think if you guys want to totally disagree with me, that's fine, but I don't know. It's weird to see someone say they totally disagree when I don't really feel like I'm over here. So you can't really totally disagree with something that isn't on the other end of the spectrum. So, because if I'm giving a little bit in both ways, how do you totally disagree with something that goes a little bit both ways? So, well, but this is the point. So the concept isn't what's literally happening in the real world. It's, the concept, the reach of a prosecutor to say, look, we want to prosecute somebody. And honestly, even, police officers, investigators, detectives, they're an arm of the state. So when you get Underwood up there saying she looks at rap lyrics because some other scenario happened, some other crime happened, some child got shot because of kids listened to what they heard in a song that has nothing to do with this other person over here, a scenario and a song that has nothing to do with this person over here. But Underwood wants to take that to investigate and police somebody over here because of what happened over here. I don't think that flies. I don't think that should fly. To me, that's government overreach. So, yeah, and Sabata, I mean, this is it. Sabata, I'm an artist. I believe in being able to make whatever you like, but there's also a thing called responsibility. That doesn't mean use my lyrics, but I can also choose to write what I do, right? So the concept of, and that's what I'm saying, this is where I think it's a little bit of both ways. I think it's good for people to want to make a positive influence with the things that they do. But at the same time, I don't think that just because someone isn't, or someone interprets an artist as not making a positive influence, I don't think that that's a free pass for the government to come in and let's just bring a RICO against people that are making music and use their lyrics against them. Right? And I'm saying this right after we had all these other convictions with these guilty pleas to RICO were from plea deals. We had the only jury deliberations that have taken place for this indictment. They come back, no RICO, no gang. So, but yet the government, prosecutors, the police, they've had 3 years of trying to prosecute this. More if you consider the first time they tried to charge people for the Donovan Thomas murder. And they've had like close to a decade of investigating this, largely looking at social media posts and lyrics. So, and yeah, I will never say Red Bunny angry people fought and died for our freedom of speech. And it's just like the things we try to lock people up. Like, I mean, on one hand, like, if you smell weed and you can pull someone over, right? You might say, well, look, we smelled weed, that's probable cause. But there's been a whole bunch of discourse and issue of, well, what if they're just saying they smelled weed and they didn't smell it at all? Right? There's problems here. And if we err on the side of caution just to allow, you know, we want to see crime reduced, usually that ends with some wibble wobble of power where the government gets more power, police get broader things that they can use to pull people over, search people's cars. You want to give that same gray area to speech? Do you want to give that? Do you want the police to have that same gray area with speech? Do you want prosecutors to have that same gray area with speech? So I'm not saying what Paige is saying from the bench isn't a positive word of go out there and do good. But I don't want it to give any reinforcement to what the prosecution has tried to do here with lyrics. Because there are jurors out there like 409. And there are police, APD, gang experts out there like Underwood. Why would you, I don't want to see that validated any further than they already feel that it's validated. So, but yeah. Just my whole, I don't have a definitive single thought about it. It's something that weaves for me, right? But yeah. Lauren just bringing it back home says this case is crazy and so disorganized. And just think about it. Think about, I know the convictions from plea deals versus what a jury actually found. So, big shout out here. Touche says the case that keeps on giving. Oh, and then there were 11. So we've got 11 to go. And that includes, it seems like there was a mention of Justin Cobb. He was on the run, but now it seems like there's some update about him. So when we say 11, it seems like all 11 will be in play, not actually just on hold for one of them. But yeah, the case that keeps on giving, we've got 11 more to go. It'll be interesting because it seems like Jimmy Winfrey was already set to take a plea. It was mentioned before the verdict was announced that it was already being considered. But I wonder if those terms tweaked a little bit since yesterday. So. Oh, so are there guys? Peewee Roscoe, Jimmy Winfrey is a music artist. He's a successful music artist too. So, and that's what she was talking about. You know, there's people, he has his his business just by nature is something where he's influential, right? You're a music artist, you're a performing artist. You know, you're in a position of influence by the stuff that you create. So yeah, let me underscore that Jimmy Winfrey, who we're talking about here, he's a music artist. He might not be at the level of fame that Jeffrey Williams is, but he's still very well known. So very important context here. He is a music artist. He makes music. So, and let's see. Oh, yeah, sorry, FFS, I'm really late. Is this actually live right now? Sai, if you're here right now, listen, you sent this like an hour ago. I probably sighed like a million times since then. My bad, FFS. My bad. Um, was he? Yeah, so I don't know all the way on this backstory. Was he with Young Money? And I gotta laugh. Where was this? Do I have the Supreme Court thing? I was looking at this yesterday, guys. I had a good old time here. So they had a footnote here to go through all of Lil Wayne's nicknames, his AKAs. His footnote says, also known as Lil Weezy, Lil Weasel, Lil Full Clip, Young Weezy, Weezy F Baby, Weezy F Crazy, Wizzy Fizzy, Mr. Coach Carter, and Mr. Shoot 'em Down. His given name is Dwayne Michael Carter Jr. So just thinking of these throwbacks here, I thought this footnote was just, it was just a good time. A side note, good time there. So, okay, is he currently signed with Birdman? Yeah, never with Young Money. He was with Rich Gang. Okay, so chat with the assists here. There you go. Yeah, Weezy F Baby, I think, is one of the most well-known ones. They should have ordered it by like the common usage. But I had a good time reading this. This is like memory lane here. Let's see. Yeah, like spelled like WHOAD, Lil Wody, but it said like Lil Woody. Oh, okay. Dylan says that he's T.I.'s nephew still and works for Birdman and Thug. I felt like there was like a missing piece. And it's a blur to me because it's not like didn't really particularly follow Peewee Roscoe. But because of this case, heard more and the T.I. thing now is ringing a bell. And let's see. Yeah. So JOC says, give you props for catching the verdict live. That verdict was in and out, right? You blink, you could miss that verdict. And the sentencing. So let's see. Sassy experiences the YSL jurors should work with Cat Not Williams to maximize their channel with good trial content. They're welcome to come up. I'm happy to shout out their channel anyway. I think it'd be cool to see. They were easy to listen to. You know, sometimes when you get a bunch of people on a stream, there can be a lot of over talking and it gets awkward. Nobody means for that to happen, but it just kind of like plobs onto each other. But listening to the three of them, they were all in the room together, plus Mel and then plus Kokomo, you know, it was really like fluid. So I think they could do well having their channel. I don't know if they'll want to talk about YSL forever, but I could see them talking about other cases and acting like a sort of 13th juror, eyes on whatever other trial, similar to what we do when we watch whatever, or when I'm in a chat watching a different trial. I think that they'll have a good channel. I have no problem shouting them out, and if they want to come and they have more to say, definitely they can come up. But guys, they cover so much in that 3 hours. Really, there's a ton of insight in there. So again, check that out. Good to see you, Sassy. I think, did I see you over in that chat? That chat was so live. That chat was so busy. It was so much. Touche is out here gifting memberships. Let's show some love for Touche. That's super generous. We got 5 gifted subs here from Touche. Making it green here in the chat. Positive influence. That's super nice. So big thank you here to Touche. Let's see. Yeah, Lisa, I love listening to them. Lisa says, yeah, those young women are amazing. I love listening to them. And I thought it was really nice, like 225, the one that went through to deliberations. She said something to the effect of, when I heard that 387 and oh my god, 508, oh my gosh, brain mush, were alternates, I was like, oh. But then the other two, they both expressed a sentiment that like, we were so happy that 225 was still going to go in there. Like, we knew that she would, you know, keep it sensible. We knew she would hold it down. So I really, really, I like the idea that you can get a read from somebody. And they reserved commentary about the other jurors, but they did make a comment that, you know, you could tell what people were thinking, certain jurors were thinking, just by their body language, right? How they would react to certain things. And it seems like we heard from 409 yesterday. 409 on the Dennis Byron interview said that she had to leave the courtroom. They took a break one of the days, and I vaguely remember this. I didn't piece the reasoning together. But after they showed, I think it was the video of, I don't know if it was the Wooney Lee video. I think it was the video where Jeffrey Williams, they're like standing outside, and they're against the siding of a house, and they have the young kid doing a sign, like a YSL sign, I don't know what sign it was, for the camera. And the state like really wanted to play this video, of course, because it's super inflammatory. You've got a kid throwing up gang signs. And this juror 409, they have to take a break. They have to take a recess because juror 409 starts crying. And she said, how can you do this? How can you do this to the children? And the language she was using, I can't even quote it verbatim because the way it was being said was kind of like foreign to me. And I was really trying to listen to this to get an understanding, because you've got to understand that this person could have made it through to the jury deliberations. Deliberations could have involved this stance. We can't just disregard it and act like it doesn't exist and act like it's not important to try to hear. But at the same time, it was kind of hard to hear. You know, she would try to say she didn't have preconceived notions, but then as she kept answering, it would spill through a little bit more. And it seemed like just that reason alone, seeing this kid throw up a hand sign that they were mimicking from adults doing, she was already convinced that they turned this kid into a criminal and that these men are guilty because of this video. And, you know, we're watching that, we're like, oh gosh, this is inflammatory. Like, we know that factually this should not be proof that these men are guilty as charged for what they're charged for. But what if a juror is sitting there and goes, oh God, the children? And 409 was that juror that sat there and was so ruffled by that she started crying. And that was enough for her. That was the evidence she needed. And I don't know. I had a hard time listening to it. I'm white, and I felt like it was how some white people look down on communities of people that don't look like them. And I don't think that she was actually white. But I was thinking, like, she sounds like some white people that have, like, really made me raise my eyebrow. So, and I don't know. Yeah, a lot of people, Adela says, and sorry, I think I've pronounced your name previously as like Adelax, but I think it's Adela, and you're just using the X as a decoration here. So sorry if I've been saying it wrong. But a lot of people said they had to stop listening. So that's why I said, like, I do recommend, you know, I don't want to just say, look at the jurors that are like entertaining to watch and don't look at the insight. The insight from both sides, especially in contrast, is interesting. It's important to be aware of. But I do want to give that forewarning that a lot of people said that they couldn't stomach listening to this interview with the alternate juror 409 with Dennis Byron. Like 5 or 6 people I've said see that. So, yeah, NJB says, I didn't like that clip with the kid, but I hated listening to that alternate juror even more. Like, and yeah, so Stephen Donnelly says it's really scary to see it. And that's the thing, like, we've got to understand that this exists. It sucks to see so many people yesterday say, like, Williams shouldn't have taken that plea. Well, the remainder of the trial would have been entirely different if Jeffrey Williams was still in the courtroom, right? The presentation from the state would have been different. Orders of witnesses would have been different. But besides that consideration, right? I think I'm sticking by my guns that if Jeffrey Williams was there and they were willing to give a possession charge to Shannon Stillwell, Jeffrey Williams was at risk because he had several possession charges on the table because of that raid, that 2022 raid, right? And the jury was clearly willing to say, like, we don't think they've proven beyond a reasonable doubt all these other things, but if that's not Yak's watch in Jeffrey Williams' house, I think they might have been willing to make the conclusion, yep, that Glock was Jeffrey Williams. It was in his house. That other Glock with the switchy, that was Jeffrey Williams. That was in his house. Those are serious charges, you guys. So I still think there's a sound basis for Jeffrey Williams to have made the decision to take the plea that he made. And it sucks. Sucks that he didn't get to take it to the end and maybe get an acquittal, but you just don't know. You just don't know. And especially if Juror 409 was in that jury room deliberating, guys. Like, crazy. Crazy. Let's see. Yeah, Boss Man Bambino, thanks for the 2. Jeff wasn't going to beat the charges he pled to. And I think I kind of am in the same boat, right? And he might have gotten acquittals, right? Instead of taking a nolo contendere on the RICO and the gang charge, he might have gotten acquittal on those, and maybe that would balance it out. But at the same time, I don't know if if he got that switchy charge, I don't think that can just be probated, guys. Don't take me at face value here for my sentencing math, but I don't think that that could be probated. So, that might be true. He might have been a manager. I thought he had songs though. I thought he was like featured in some songs or videos. But at the same time, I would say that if he's playing a role in the production or dissemination of music, I mean, still the same. I don't think that Whitaker was coming from a place of people look up to you because you happen to be someone that owns firearms. I think she was arguing people look up to you because you're in the music industry. So really, like, my same stance, it stems from Whitaker basing that on her words of advice because you're in a certain industry where people might see you as a mentor, see you as a role model, or imitate what you do. And I think that would be more because he's still going to continue to be doing music. It wouldn't really make sense for her to be like, as you continue to do, what may be gang activity alleged by the state, as you continue to do all that, at least just do it positively. It doesn't make sense that that would be the basis that she was speaking from. Let's see. Yeah, I just think there's just too much with those charges, guys. Yes, Gemini rising. And I don't have much to say here because I still think, right? I still think that the family members of a victim or a direct victim, grief is a real thing. I don't want to judge someone for the way they deal with grief because grief is different for everybody. However, there is somebody uploaded. Maybe if I refresh like YouTube, it'll just coincidentally pop up here. Let me just like refresh my YouTube. Or maybe it's in my history. History. How do I get to my history? Hello. Hello, YouTube. Okay, history. Okay, so I'm sharing a link here. And you can watch it if you want. I'll give a brief summary. It's about 6 minutes. It's Donovan Thomas's mom. So Nuts mom. And she went to visit Donovan Thomas's grave after the verdict and sentencing yesterday, and she was speaking for about 6 minutes. And Gemini Rising here is saying, Nuts mother blame the jurors and content creators. Yeah, I heard there was one part she blurted out that she seemed to suggest that the jurors were paid, them fake ass jurors or them paid jurors. She said something about the jurors. And maybe that came from a place of anger. Maybe she genuinely feels that and will continue to feel that even after emotions have a chance to settle. And I don't know. I think it's very interesting to feel that all the jurors were paid. This was a unanimous verdict. It's not, hey, there was a hung jury, one person threw it, and we think that there's something funny going on. The implication there would have to be all 12. So, but at the same time, and I think that's a lot to say about jurors that aren't really responsible for getting justice, right? The evidence available that they could use to find justice, they weighed that evidence, right? So I feel like the investigation might be in question. Whoever you think is responsible might be in question. I do think she kind of hinted a little bit that this isn't ending here, almost like she knows who did it, and this isn't the end for those people that they think they say they know did it. And that seems like a little bit of something that, with the way the APD and investigators look at the things that people say on social media, if they had the same standard back and forth, it seems like some of this could be looked at with that lens. And I'm not saying I necessarily approve of this lens. I'm just saying if it's the same lens and we look at it, that some of this could seem like a hint at the same beef continuing to go on and on and on. And You know, I'm not going to judge her for feeling how she feels. That it can't be a big or an easy day to hear a not guilty verdict for the people that the state's charging, and it seems like maybe she believes are responsible for the death of your son. However, you know, to say those things when this prosecution involved a theory of a back and forth beef and retaliation for one person getting shot at, then someone else needs their get back. It's just interesting to see. So yeah, fake. Okay, so she said that they were fake. So I'll link that again. Well, and I titled it just Donovan Thomas. I should have named it like Donovan Thomas's mom. But that's in the chat there. But I just think, you know, just like kind of like a word of caution. And maybe you're not worried that the state's going to look at your words this way, which to me, that's what's interesting about it, right? You know, the state has looked at words of retribution and used that to pursue an investigation, arrest, charges, prosecution. But at the same time, you don't feel like you have to be cautious about what you say. Why not? And maybe that's not that criticism there isn't to place on the mom's shoulders, but it's like it seems like there's an understanding or some reason to believe that the state would never see what you say as a threat. Same way, and this is really on Judge Whitaker, but that exchange between Doug Weinstein when he brought to attention the hallway incident between Viverito and Kayla Bumpus. And Whitaker was like, that's hardly a threat. And Doug was like, well, I've had clients arrested for work or for less. Right? It just seems like sometimes we over scrutinize and are so ready to arrest or prosecute or find something to be incriminating, a social media post or something someone says online in a video. Sometimes we're so like hyper focused to find criminality in it. But when something similar is said by somebody else, it's no big deal. And I just don't like that difference. I don't like that contrast. So, again, a lot of food for thought there. Please don't take anything I say there as a definitive, like, for or against any particular person. Julie Cat says, hey, Cat, would love to see you panel up with Cuffboy Cam All-Star Team. That would be a stream of 2 people wearing hats going like this and going like... So it would be hilarious. Cuffboys had... Oh, man. I'm so scared to say I'm going to try to find it. It'll probably take me like 5 minutes of scrolling with all the stuff I felt like I was living on the internet yesterday, looking at all the reactions to the verdict and everything else that's playing out. But there was a Cuff Boys clip. You know, actually, I think he timestamps it in his video, and then I can link you guys to his whole recap. Great recap of everything with the verdict. Let's see. But his reaction to Hilton, when Hilton walked away after Shart asked to approach right before the sentencing, right after the verdict was read down. Let's see. Let me add this to the description. So Cuffboy's video is also going to be in the description. I'll drop it in the chat in a second. All right. Let me get to the timestamp and then toggle it over for you guys. His reaction to her is hilarious. And really it applies to the state. All right, I think it's here, so we'll see.
Close the chat and then get fucking spoiled. Here we go. Here's a close up of Miss. Here's a close up of Miss Hilton.
Already losing it.
Such an L. Take that L, Miss Hilton. Take that fucking L. Holy shit! Look at her face. Her lips quivering.
All right, so.
And again, like the facial expression, yes, it's worn by Miss Hilton in this particular clip, but I think it speaks for the state. Oh, man. So there's that in the chat. It's also in the description there. A good time. Big thank you here, Julie Cat. Again, it would be 2 people in hats on a screen looking at people's facial expressions. FFS is out here sniping. You know, business as usual for FFS, but we appreciate it big time. So show FFS some love in the chat. We've got some snipes here. Oh, this is so fun. Okay, let's run this back. He just loses it the second she gets on screen. Look, he's at, where is he? Where's the seal? All right, let's just go back a little further.
Zoom in on Miss Love's face right now, please. Come on.
Wait,
Any
Miss Love?
reason that we
Oh,
can't
he's
go ahead
asking
and sentence?
Maurice.
You may.
They should sentence him, right? Why not? It's a possession of firearm, right? I need to zoom in on Miss Hilton and Love's face, dude, immediately. I'm so happy I closed the chat and didn't get fucking spoiled. Here we go. Here's a close up of Miss. Here's a close up of Miss Hilton.
The way the whole chat yesterday was like, Maurice, we wish we could see Love's face. Show their faces, show their faces. Everybody wanted to see the reaction. Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh. Thank you, chat, for showing love here to FFS. Out here sniping. And guess what? Guess who else snuck one in? STS couldn't let FFS stand on his own. Had to join up, had to squad up here. We got the 3 initials going back and forth. STS is also sniping out here with the membership. So shout out to STS in the chat. Like, they make it easy. They make it so easy to say thank you. They give us these 3-letter names nice and easy. Gemini Rising in the chat says they need extra cameras. Yeah, next time we need like a 4-panel view of the future YSL trial. Oh, goodness. Oh, that was a whole time. Oh, there was just something else funny I just thought of. Maybe it'll come back to me. Oh, and remember a while ago I said the chat sponsored a cat? I have this tab open. I'm like going through my tabs over here and saw this. They emailed me, and this is, you know, big thanks again to STS. There is a cool sanctuary for senior cats that helps pair senior cats with senior citizens, like a companionship thing. But they get some cats that are like, they're not suitable to rehome for various numbers of reasons. So we sponsor a chat cat. We have an official chat cat. And I love our chat cat, even though I'm a dog person. We have the Great Catsby. And they sent me an update. This is Catsby. Look at this stare, this face here. But we got an update. Our little Catsby spent this month, much like the last, never too far from his best buddies. Cats, and you can see he's surrounded. He's got his friends here. He's got the squad, guys. There's 3 of them. There's 3 of them here. Catsby is a well-rounded cat in the way of liking humans and his cat roommates. Typically, the other cats here lean far to one side, but Catsby truly is the perfect kitty. His hobbies include cuddling and playing with his feline friends, or hunting down volunteers for treats and pets. You know, what a life. He lives the life, that's for sure. And look at his facial expression between this picture, and it's like the same. It just stays the same. So shout out to Kathmandu Sanctuary here. That is our official cat that we sponsor here, the Honorable Great Catsby. Oh my god, we got anything interesting over here on X? I'm having a time today. It feels like just such good vibes here. With the verdict yesterday, again, especially because of the way the state, they lost on that RICO and the gang charge. What a big L. Do we have any other interesting? I had some windows open. I have like a million windows open. Let's see. This one. Oh, I think this is where they talk about, like, this was following the conversation
anything
about
about
Steel.
Mr. Williams, honestly, before the trial. I didn't know anything about it.
Oh, so you've never heard his music before?
Well, I mean, I think, like, because my daughter was like, "You heard this song?" I didn't even realize that the Go Crazy song with Chris Brown and him, like, a song for like a whole summer. But honestly, I don't really listen to rap, so I didn't realize that it was him. So, like, I honestly didn't know anything about his music and stuff like that. And to be honest, like, the way that they presented him in his trial, it honestly made me look at him like she said, and they wanted him to kind of look in like this negative light. But I saw somebody who kind of, pulled himself up, got himself out of the position that he was in and tried to help other people around. So, I mean, it actually shined a more positive light in my eyes than what the state was trying to present. So, I wish him continued success with everything. I think they kind of know anything.
And what's so interesting is, again, the parties were able to go and speak with the jurors. The jurors were willing to speak with them. The defense spoke with them. The state spoke with them. But Adrian Love didn't go back and speak with the jurors to get their feedback, hear their insight. And they were discussing. They tried to tell the state, like, look, you just didn't know how to put a story together. And, it's really important that you tell a story. We want to try to follow things. We want to try to make sense of things. And you guys were just all over the place. And that's good feedback to hear. There's so many streams that I watch where it's, a law tuber, it's an actual attorney covering a trial. And they say this a lot during like opening and closing statements, but you really want to tell your story. You want to give jurors like a roadmap to have something to follow. And so to hear that so often in the YouTube space, to the point where it seems like I understand it, even though I've never lived it, I've never had to practice that and apply it. But as an outsider, I understand that that's a big concept. And you've got jurors here that are willing to speak after deliberation. Some jurors just want to go home. They're not willing to do this. These jurors are willing to speak with both sides. And Adrian Love, who is known for dealing with difficult witnesses, doesn't want to get feedback on how to do her case better. It's just, I've commented a lot on how I don't imagine that there will be much self-reflection. So, oh, goodness. Again, this whole interview is pinned in the chat. It's also in the description if you're watching this on replay. This is obviously, you guys, by now, I hope you guys are familiar with Mel. I'm not a lawyer. Covers a ton of trials in addition to YSL. All around, just like great person, great content creator. And I don't have specific words that are like good enough to like encapsulate how great I think Mel is with her content and who she is as a person. But on top of that, this interview was extremely awesome. So make sure you go and check that out. It's worth every single minute of the almost 3 hours. Yeah, and Corky, exactly that. You've got to connect all the dots. You can't just leave a thread hanging. And again, one of the things we talked about earlier in this stream, but they talked about, it felt like you were treating us like we were stupid by not really addressing that fourth car. So, and remember, one of the jury questions was, can we see the video of cars 1 through 4, not 1 through 3, not of Drinks and Shannon Stillwell's car. Okay, we see cars 1 through 4. So, yes. Hilton went back, you guys. It was specifically Love that didn't go back. And Love wasn't in the room for the status hearing, so it's not like she can't be in 2 places at one time. What was she doing that she couldn't speak to the jurors? Or what was she doing that she couldn't sit in that status hearing instead of leaving Abate alone at the table? And what a difference today. Did you guys feel a difference between, these plea colloquies that we've heard where, let's say, especially with the Moontunk, we went back and went through that reading. We had Hilton do some of the plea readings, the colloquy readings. But the way that things were read, the way that they were read by Abate today, where he was just like, I'm just getting through the stuff I have to read onto the record, is kind of how it came off to me. Versus, especially with Love, it seemed like she was putting on her case for any number of co-defendants through a plea colloquy. So it just seemed like starkly different. And a lot of that could come down to just different personality, tone of voice, delivery. But I think a bit of it is Love really believes that that's like a moment of prosecution to be making her case against people that are not in the room. So, Iron Rabbit's out here. Look at Iron Rabbit. And Iron Rabbit makes it easy too. We can use some emojis. We can spell out Iron Rabbit. Big thank you here to Iron Rabbit. Gifting 5. Big thank you. Good to see you, Iron Rabbit. I don't think I saw you yesterday, so please let us know what you think. Whenever you heard this verdict, what were you thinking? Because you've been around for a while watching this trial as well. For always, forever, for life. I tried to send out the signal to the ladies. I was like, look, a Kokomo has appeared on this interview. He has made an appearance. I tried to let you guys know. Thank you guys showing love here in the chat. Holy moly, FFS is out here going bananas. I'm like, what is going on? How are there 31 star chats? StreamYard stars, like anything that's a gift, or a super. How are there 31? Look at FFS. This is FFS imitating Love's, firing noise, her rapid fire noise. Look at this. Look at this, just going bananas here. So shout out once again to FFS. Thank you so much. I'm glad to have you here with us. It is just so much to talk about with this case. Yes, thank you guys, chat, also for reiterating that this interview is worth it, because if you're sitting here in this chat, you haven't watched it, and you're like, oh, I want to, like, maybe it's kind of long. I'm telling you, it's so worth it. It is so worth it. So thank you, Terrell, here for the feedback on this. Yes, Honeybee. Good point. They were shocked to hear about Moongtung. Because Mel filled them in, like, you know, after that they ended up sentencing him to 5 years. They revoked his probation. So, oh, okay, Iron Rabbit, my bad. Iron Rabbit was here. My bad. But I cried tears of joy for these two young men. A whole moment. Oh, we've got to look at, we have a tweet to Max. Let me... Oh, okay, found it. There were a bunch of tweets, and I was like, I don't know if I see it. But Shaq says, Max, you are the reason I want to be an attorney. From meeting you when I was 17 at the Fulton County Public Defender's Office to now, I've always looked up to you. Aside from being my mentor, you're one of my closest friends. Love you, Max. We got a video here, too.
My favorite attorney, always coming in clutch. I know I done got locked up a couple times.
And there you go. And it was really nice to hear him, like, break down and share his praises for Shart and the others as well. It wasn't just for Max Shart, but particularly Max Shart. So definitely, if you want to hear a little bit more on Kokomo's story, his inspiration, he talks about that in this interview with I'm Not a Lawyer, which is pinned in the chat and in the description here. So thank you here, Gwennon. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so Miss 86 Scorps says in the UK they lock people up for Facebook posts. So, and that's the thing, like, I don't love this. Like, it's so much one thing for us to say, like, hey, it'd be great if social media wasn't so controversial and harsh. People can say mean things. Like, we can have a conversation about those things. But at the same time, I'm just so weary of, you know, a court, a judge, a prosecutor's office, just being able to interpret something and just run with it and run too far with it. So this is the kind of concept that I'm like, I don't want to get there. I don't want to give that inch where it can become that mile. Yeah, Kiss and Pink says Max called him up like, we need you, fam. Oh, and I've got this looping. I mean, maybe the chat doesn't mind. I did have some other clips up. I'm telling you, there is no amount of clips that or commentary on this interview that will cover the interview in full. There was just so much in it, completely jam-packed. Let's see. Thugger Daily. And Thugger Daily, I don't know. How do you find Spaces replays? Is that something I could just see on his wall? Okay. His old post has it. Okay, so I'm also going to share, Thugger Daily hosted a Spaces yesterday. Good conversations in there as well. The time that this Spaces happened was Mel's interview with the 3 jurors was about to happen, but a lot of people had already seen the interview with the 409, with the Giddy Up 409. So a lot of the commentary was like, I was listening to that juror and I just have to say something. So, just keep in mind that this Spaces was before, when you hear them talk about the juror interview, they're talking about the interview with Dennis Byron and Juror 409. Add this to the description here if you guys want to check out the Thugger Daily Spaces. Let's see. Yeah, and if you guys didn't hear, Kayla's taking on, especially to get the ball rolling and try to get Shannon out before Christmas. She's co-counsel with Shart on one of the remaining cases that they've got to clear up for Shannon Stillwell. She already had another one dismissed. Let's see. Yeah, this is their take on lyrics.
Generally speaking, how did you guys feel about the lyrics being used? But then 225, what did you think? What was happening when the request came out for the songs?
We'll let 225.
Okay.
I mean, for me personally, I didn't care about the lyrics. Like, I mean, I grew up listening to Eminem. He killed his wife in like 5 songs. So, like, to me, it was art. Like, I can't necessarily say that somebody doing like what they say in their music is what they're actually doing. So, like, I didn't put much weight on the lyrics. But I will say that the reason why, it was one particular juror that asked to hear the lyrics again, and it was more so because English ain't her first language, I don't think. She's from another country, and she said that she couldn't understand, like when they played the lyrics, she wanted to hear it one more time because she couldn't necessarily pick up what they were saying. So she just wanted to hear it one more time. But it was literally just one person that wanted to hear the lyrics. I think overall with the jurors that were deliberating, the lyrics weren't really a thing.
So. And this is so crazy because juror number 409, we hear that this juror wants to just hear to actually hear the words. Juror number 409 said she wanted to dissect the lyrics. She said she wanted to dissect the lyrics because she bought into the state's argument that these lyrics are confessions on a beat. She wanted to dissect the lyrics. And here they're like the 12 of us. Yeah, we asked to hear the lyrics, but it was mostly because we wanted to hear, just straight up hear what was being said, because it may have been more difficult for one member of the deliberating jury to hear it on a first listen because English didn't seem to be her first language, right? Which is a totally different thing than someone saying, I wanted a transcript, I wanted to dissect the lyrics. Just a total contrast between, and again, 252 was on the deliberating jury. 508 and 387, who's off the screen over here, they were alternates. So, let's see. Also, Nana Banana, thank you so much. So thank you, KNW, for your opinions. No judgment here. Appreciate that a lot. I think it's important. Again, what we just heard from in this interview, you guys may not have heard this part, but in this interview, 225 says they go in there, they're about to start looking at Yak's charges first. And I don't know if she's making the statement about Yak's charges or the charges in general. It seems like she may mean that when we got in there, we were pretty much like 2 of us were not guilties, 10 were unsure or were leaning towards guilty. But it was 10-2 and not in favor of not guilty when they first get into deliberations. But they start sitting down, they chop it up, they start, what are we going to look at first? Do we have questions? Are we sure about things? Do we want to double check? And they work through it. They have these conversations. And by the time they get through to the end, we get these almost across the board acquittals, right? And that's, I think it's so important not to have judgment, because that type of deliberation, moving the needle, if nobody was willing to listen to each other, it would have stayed 10-2. So, and heck yeah, definitely it's pinned because I need you guys to watch it. YSL Terra says, I really need to watch that. No, I need you to watch it. So we can sit here and we can talk about what they're saying. Even though a lot of what they're saying like really reflects the way the public, the general public watching this trial, the overall sentiment out here. What they say really reflects that. And there are some things that they say that they notice that, like, I didn't really see too much of the chat notice. Maybe here and there a little bit, some people notice it. But it was really cool to see they're still picking up. There's so much more to pick up on. You never know what any two eyes are going to notice, or ears. Let's see. Princess Black, thank you for the super sticker. Hold on now. I gotta pull up this YouTube here. Gotta pull up what the sticker is. Gotta make sure we know. And while we do that, CB4 said she's so fine. I had to send a super chat. What was her name? Tanya. Big shout out here to Shannon Alexander. Tanya, and I'm assuming I'm saying the J right, so it's Tanya with the J. Miller. Tanya Miller was ADA in Fulton County for years. So Tanya Miller, we're talking about the attorney that just was sitting in the plea hearing representing Jimmy Winfrey, right? So great background context here. She was with the ADA. She was an ADA, you know, common thread, right? Start off in the DA's office, move to defense work. Someone else in the chat, I think it was Scott, said that she was a civil rights attorney. So it seems like she's out here doing her thing. It was nice to see her. You guys seem to appreciate, thought she was very pretty. She looks very pretty. But I appreciate that she put on the record, like, look, we spoke about this, me and Abate, but I'm going to repeat it in full for the record, that there's supposed to be some permissibility for these folks to interact with each other, right? No personal interactions. And we stated that to each other. Candor to the court, I want to let you know that they were amenable to this. I know we're not bickering on this. But I still want to put it on the record so nobody plays any games later. That my client can still, in the course of his business, interact with some others that may have a felony record. Right? So I really appreciated her for that. She made it clear without casting aspersions, as Love would accuse her of, I'm sure. So, and thank you here for that context, Shannon. And CB4 said she's so fine, I had to send a super chat. So shout out to Tanya Miller. With all the Kokomo going on, the fellas need some eye candy too. Sassy Experience says, Kat, you gotta remix Jimmy into ABCs of Steel. That was great. I enjoyed that. I thoroughly enjoyed that. And instantly, of course, thought of the ABCs of Steel. Jimmy Winfrey definitely had his own. I love that he said C for currency. That's so funny to me. Because of this whole, like, Rico and gang, they're gonna come out with a new indictment and say, you know, what's the factual basis for what you're saying? Well, he said C for currency. Who would ever use a alpha, like an alphabet, a phonetics? Who would choose the word currency? Like, I could just picture Love inventing some word salad about C is for currency. So definitely love that. Black Butterfly says their expression about Gaither and the aunt. Did Mel ask about that? I missed it if Mel asked about that. I must have missed that. I must have, like, tuned away. But I definitely heard them say, you know, Gaither, she was audible to them when she was making those hot mic comments. And when Viverito, they didn't think that it could get worse than Gaither. But then Viverito showed up, so... Oh, that's hilarious! So they did get into the context on that. Oh, that's hilarious. Or maybe it just stood to the auntie comment that Quindarius Zachary made on the stand. Did they get into the theory that, you know, everyone out here was talking about? Hilarious. Oh, God. See, now I gotta go watch this all again. Oh, boy. I'm telling you, gotta watch this interview, you guys. There's so much in it. There's so much in it. If you think that this chat has told you everything that's in this interview, nope, there's more. Go watch it. I need a round two. TGG Gaming says 409. That's the interview with Dennis Byron. Was going to vote guilty from the beginning until the end. She said it was, she has a slime mind, not looking at the evidence. Well, she kept reiterating that she had all the evidence she needed. She had all the evidence she needed. And I'm wondering how she would have done if someone actually pushed back on her. Like, would she really have stuck to her guns? Would she have insisted that it doesn't matter? Because this type of, the way she described this made it seem like there's enough there to say that the explanation that it could have been these guys, there's enough there to say that it could have been these guys. Like a preponderance of evidence standard. It didn't seem like she was saying that if someone showed like, hey, there's some doubt here, what about what the medical examiner said? It seemed like she'd stand firm that it didn't matter. And that means you're dismissing and not taking seriously the reasonable doubt standard. And that's a scary thing. To me, that's a scary thing. Because what a juror is supposed to do, how a juror is supposed to look at the evidence, doesn't mean that that's how they're going to do it. So if you have a juror in there that's fine with, oh, just, a possible explanation's fine. And there's enough here to say that, since this baby's throwing up a hand sign, there's enough here for me to conclude that these guys are ruining the community, and I just don't like that. It makes me cry. So I'm going to find them guilty. There's people that will still think that that's what they're supposed to do as a juror. And that's so scary. So, and again, not to knock someone, it's tough because how do you fight back against someone who swears they're trying to do good that isn't willing to see or accept some criticism that maybe your intent to improve the community and make the community stronger is making you put a broad stroke application of a scenario over people where the individual facts might not fit the one-off scenarios. Right? And it didn't seem like she would realize that that's what she was doing. So that's a rough one. And again, if you can watch that one with 409, I think it's important to watch. It might not be as entertaining or as, oh, yes, I agree. And it might be a bit painful to listen to, but I think it's important to check out. Let's see. FFS says, I'm a mishearing. My name is Max Shard. I represent Shannon Stillwell. Glad this phase of the trial is done. Yep. So we got to follow him to another trial and just hear him tell us who he's representing next. We'll do it. We'll check out any other trial he's part of that is televised. And, maybe that'll be like a 2-week-long trial. We can do it. Let's see. Touche says, after watching that interview, which I'm sure they will, the state better resolve this second case and just walk away quietly. They lost this jury early. Yeah. And, they tried to tell the state, and Hilton was there to listen. Maybe Hilton will listen. But Love didn't want to listen. Love didn't want the feedback. You got to tell a story. You got to make it. This is hard for us to understand and follow. You've got these shell casings all over the place. We don't know what it's supposed to belong to. Just stop with the shell casings. They really echoed the chat sentiment on the shell casings. All right, all these shell casings, but what do we do with them? What do we do? And Love wasn't there to hear that feedback. She didn't want to hear that feedback. So, great point. Great point. Not very good to lose the jury early, and you got to go 160 whatever days with it. So, heck yeah, definitely got to rewatch. If you're new, so where are the interviews? So the one that's on the screen right now, it's about 3 hours long. It's pinned. But this interview on the screen and also the interview with the other alternate juror 409, they're both in the description. So this one is with I'm Not a Lawyer, but her name is Mel. So if you hear me say Mel, that's who I'm referring to. The interview with 409 is with Dennis Byron. So look for those two in the description. You'll be able to watch them. Mixed Chick wants to know if they saw Munk Tunk wipe his nose. Heck yeah. Love it. Love it. Oh my goodness. Let's see here. I had to get this, I'm taking forever to go to my YouTube dashboard. I think I've put all the links. I'm trying to do a good job today. I think all the links I've mentioned, I think I've put them in the description. So they should all be there. I know for sure that the 2 interviews are in there because I put those in there a while ago. But anything I'm mentioning, especially if you're on Replay Crew, that should be in there. I hope they're in there. And yes, we got the dancing avocado. So Princess Black, thank you so much for the super sticker. Guacamole time. Paul Hess says, everyone watch Dee Snider's testimony. PMRC, is that committee of some sort? Let me just look up. Parents Music Resource Committee is what that stands for. And you know what? Let's defer. We can defer this towards the end of the stream if you guys want to watch it. I'm going to link to it now. My mom is a big Twisted Sister fan. It's like my mom listened to hair metal and my dad listened to like Motown as the genres. So, monster ballads for my mom. It was a time. It was like Van Halen over here, Barry White over here. But Dee Snider, my mom has big curly hair, and Dee Snider, like she loves this story. Reached out to her and was like, "Whoa, is your hair real?" And it's like one of her favorite moments of her whole life. So always got to think of my mom when I think of Dee Snider. Let's see. So Paul Hess, thanks. I've got this bookmarked. It's also in the chat if you guys want to jump to it. Let me put it in the description as well. And it's Dee Snider with a Y normally, right? Is this spelled right in the description, or do I have the name wrong in my head? Senate hearing, speech on lyrics. So that'll be in the description as well for our replay crew. STS is out here sniping now. Hold on now. Hold on. Oh my goodness. So STS is out here. We got 1, 2, 3. We got 4. So there we go. We've got more snipes here from STS. So let's show STS some love. Thank you so much. Flesh of the Gods is out here like, hold on, I gotta join the guys. Gotta join the guys. Big shout out to Flesh of the Gods. I was so late to your stream yesterday. My bad. But we got over there eventually. It was a good time. You guys know the drill. Especially if you're going to be looking for something to do to hang out. I don't know. Do you have anything scheduled today? Because you've switched up your schedules a bit. So I don't know if you're going to do anything today. But in any case, you guys, you can follow Flesh of the Gods here. Save that in the description. Thank you for sniping out here. You guys got to be careful. There's 3 of you out here. You guys know what that looks like. And hold on. Tat Clouds, you changed your name. But Tat Clouds is out here joining the gang too. So we're up to 4. 4 people out here sniping from the chat bushes. So big thank you here to Tat Clouds. Let's see. Touche says, thanks for committing to consistent factual streams. It's been driving me nuts to see other channels get the detail wrongs. I do try. I don't like to start the fire, right? I respected those who chose not to cover if they couldn't follow. And I love everybody out there that's doing their thing to speak on this case and raise awareness. No matter, nobody's perfect. Nobody gets everything right. And in part, I think sometimes it's difficult. There's been times where I'll say something and I'll be like, hey, look, this is speculation or it's not confirmed. And I'll say whatever the thing is. And then I could follow up as soon as I'm done saying it. But I don't know, that's not confirmed yet. And then still I get the feeling or the fear. And sometimes I see it in the chat, like, who said something about this? Is that true? And it's like, I don't even want to say that sometimes, because even giving that disclaimer before and after you say a sentence, sometimes it still becomes, it goes out there like it's confirmed. And it is like a tricky thing to deal with up here. I don't want to be that person that puts out something and people think it's confirmed because I want to talk about it as a hypothetical. Like, I'm always so scared that people will run with it and think it's confirmed. So I appreciate this a lot, and lots of love out there to everyone trying to do it within good means, good intents. Brigetta's out here gifting 5, slapping 5 down. So shout out to Brigetta. She's like, look, we're going to just do this whole initiation here. We're going to bring 5 more on board. So big shout out here to Brigetta. Hold on, I'm looking at the chat, and Paris River Show is like, when do Quay and Little Mike get their plea deals? Heck yeah. When do we get their interviews? Cash Money Cass is making a joke about that yesterday. We're never going to get a interview from those two, unfortunately. Do we have any more interesting stuff here? And we've got the plea here. Is there any update? Let's see. Oh, we have another juror. Hold on, guys. We have another juror. We have juror number 71. That's a new one. Speaking to AJC, and shout out to Joseph Papp. This is awesome. Big love here for Joseph Papp. Here's the article here. His reach when he does great coverage. And I feel like he doesn't get the reach that he deserves. So please show some love over there on X. Let me add this link to the description as well. But shout out, we've got a new juror that we haven't heard from yet. I don't believe. I haven't seen juror 71. Joseph Papp and AJC. So let's read this. Let's read this. And am I logged in? Let me make sure I'm logged in. Okay, so we have the whole article. It always logs me out. All right, so YSL juror, there wasn't a smoking gun. Make this bigger. So this is cool. Get something new. So YSL juror says there wasn't a smoking gun. Young Thug might have been acquitted had he not pleaded guilty, jurors say. They show the picture here. And this is published 21 minutes. Oh, with his comrade here, Shadi Abu Saad. So shout out to both of them. If Young Thug hadn't pleaded guilty to gang, drug, and gun charges on Halloween night, the rap superstar might have walked free, two jurors said after the lengthy trial ended this week. The trial, the longest in Georgia history, concluded Tuesday as the two remaining defendants were acquitted of murder, gang, and racketeering charges. The jury found Diamante Kendrick not guilty of all the charges he faced, while Shannon Stillwell was convicted of one count of possessing a gun as a felon and sentenced to probation. So, the single guilty verdict was a blow to Fulton County prosecutors, who spent more than a year arguing Young Slime Life was a violent gang led by the Grammy-winning rapper. YSL, they contended, was responsible for a series of robberies, shootings, and the deaths of 3 rival gang members. In a press conference announcing the indictment in May 2022, Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis said she would seek the maximum penalties for the 28 defendants charged, alleging gangs are responsible for 75 to 80% of all the violent crime in Fulton County. But 2 jurors said Tuesday that the state failed to prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt, particularly when it came to the evidence against Young Thug. The Atlanta rapper, whose real name is Jeffrey Williams, was sentenced to 15 years of probation and banished from his hometown for a decade after pleading guilty. From my perspective, I think he had a great shot of going home, juror number 71 said in a phone interview. A lot of time, we sat there waiting on that smoking gun. At that point, there wasn't a smoking gun. Juror number 71 said he doesn't know if prosecutors had additional evidence to present against Mr. Williams. But at the time Young Thug pleaded guilty, there wasn't enough for a conviction, he said, citing concerns for his safety. The juror, whose first name is Kevin, asked not to be fully identified. Other jurors declined to be interviewed after they were released from jury duty. Jury foreman Jason Collins told Channel 2 Action News, I think Michael Sadin is his name, that was shared around yesterday, that he didn't feel the state had presented enough evidence to convict the rapper either. From what I was looking at, I did not see anything connected to him throughout the course of the case, he said. Jury selection started in January 2023 and lasted 10 months. The trial itself took more than a year and was marred by repeated delays and the replacement of the judge midway through. In the end, the jury was ready to go home. It was extremely long, Collins told, this is Juror 56, told Channel 2. You pretty much put your whole life on the side. Prosecutors argued at trial that YSL members regularly rapped about crimes they had committed. Kevin said, that this is 71, he wasn't swayed by the state's use of lyrics as evidence. So that's like everyone that we've heard from so far. He grew up in Chicago and said plenty of people rap about violence. If that's the case, come lock up my nephews and my cousin's kids. Come lock up my whole neighborhood, he said. This is punchy, right? This is a juror sounding exactly like the vast majority of the public that's watching this trial. If that's the case, we're all screwed. If that's enough, then it would apply to everybody. So, Kevin also said he thought the state's evidence was lacking when it came to the shooting deaths of Donovan Thomas and Shamel Drinks. For one thing, the juror said he felt the witness who placed Stillwell and Kendrick at the scene of Thomas's shooting was unreliable, especially after that witness, Kenneth Copeland, admitted he had lied to investigators to keep himself out of trouble. Everything to me was a torn up picture they were trying to tape back together. Oh! Oh, man. Oh, boy. You try to make it whole, but you are missing some pieces. And if some pieces are missing, what does that mean? What does that mean? The 26-year-old Thomas was gunned down outside an Atlanta barbershop, and prosecutors argued the car used in the drive-by had been rented by Young Thug. But Kevin said there simply wasn't enough evidence to convict the two defendants of murder. Copeland, who probably said Woody, or the witness, placed them there, and then the state didn't back it up with the phone records. Right. What did Doug emphasize? What did Doug emphasize? Whose phone didn't they look at? Look at this. They had everybody else's phone records except for Kendrick and Stillwell. Regarding the fatal shooting of Drinks at a red light in March 2022, Kevin said the grainy surveillance video presented by the prosecution wasn't enough to find Stillwell guilty of murder either. We never saw the shots. We never saw the flashes. Oh, sorry, Viverito. Kevin described serving on the jury as a nice change of pace from his regular job, where he clocks plenty of overtime hours each week. There were enough breaks in proceedings that he could schedule doctor's appointments, but he said he couldn't travel back and forth to Illinois to visit his relatives. Jury service wasn't as easy for others, Kevin acknowledged, saying some jurors essentially put their lives on hold to attend trial each day. Prosecutors and defense attorneys met with the jury after the verdict was delivered Tuesday morning, but Chief Deputy District Attorney Adrian Love wasn't there. So the jurors are noting this. I mean, maybe this was prompted by a question. There is a small chance, I don't know when they did this interview, but maybe they had this question because they saw it on social media being talked about last night after these other interviewers. So maybe this answer was prompted. But at the same time, if it was voluntary, if he was just like, yeah, oh, did you meet with anybody? Yeah, and you know what I thought was weird? Adrian Love, we saw so much of her, but she wasn't back there. If Kevin noticed this, without being prodded, oof. The juror said he thought the lead prosecutor took things personally, and the other jurors said this too, the three that did the interview with Mel. It seemed like Love would try to redeem herself on these redirects. Direct would happen, and it seemed like, all right, they're spelling it out, and then cross would happen, and they'd be like, well, wait a minute. And then when they were talking about Love, they said it seemed like she took things personally. And a lot of her questioning was more about redeeming herself. Look at what Juror 71 is also saying. The juror said he thought the lead prosecutors took things personally. Lead prosecutor, singular, took things personally at times during the trial, especially during closing arguments. So does that mean she saw the... Kevin said he may keep in touch with some of the other jurors, but acknowledged that they're from different walks of life and said it's hard to imagine them getting together much. And this is a bit bittersweet, but very interesting that he's like, we're very different. But guess what we thought about the state's case when you put us all together? This guy's flat out saying, look, I think we're from different walks of life, me and the other jurors, but we still came to the same page. So there you go. This is, and again, big shout out here to Joseph Papp and Shadi Abusad here with AJC. Been great work. A lot of time, if you look back at some of the earlier pre-trial stuff, you try to research it, a lot of the in-depth coverage that's still out there comes from one of these two. They have a third journalist that they work with. Can't think of his name offhand. But really a lot of archives here with AJC, as well as on Twitter through Joseph Papp. So, wow. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of juror number 71? Here's this link again in the chat. Yeah, shout out to Kevin. Shout out to Kevin. Is my sound breaking up, guys? My bad. My bad. It's not like showing me an indicator. So hopefully it's just something in passing. Mrs. Saber or Sabry, and I gotta say it both because I had a friend that her name was LaSabry. So I don't want to get it wrong. I know Saber is the typical pronunciation. We've had a lot of fuss about pronunciations today, of my own doing, really. Did you get to watch the other jurors? It's pinned at the top of this chat. It was the interview with Mel from I'm Not a Lawyer, But. It was one deliberating juror, juror number 225, and two alternates, 508 and 387. But that's linked up there if you haven't gotten to check that out. Definitely check that out if you like this article. Like, it's just so crazy. He's saying, like, we were totally different people, but you read this article and you listen to what they said last night, they're on the same page about this case. So, there we go. Thanks, you guys, for the feedback on the sound. That guy, Nick, says YouTube's been super glitchy lately. I've gotten that, too. Something I've noticed that's been happening since they updated the toggle to change, it's easier to, like, get fine-tuned with how you want to speed up a stream. If you let it catch up in real time and you still have it sped up, it's like YouTube is trying to wait to give it enough space to run it at a faster speed. So if you notice like a sound issue and you've been using a faster speed, check to see if you're caught up and then manually put your speed back down to 1 times. So, because that was giving me an issue yesterday. And yeah, I'm loving all this stuff from the jurors. Love it, love it, love it. Let's see. We've got Ashley Linnell says the DA is a mess. Winfrey is pleading guilty to RICO, but can be around him for business. A leader of a gang makes 0 sense. And it's interesting, right? You know, we don't want you around each other, but all of you do music and you can all be around each other to do music. It's kind of like, well, the risk must not be that serious, right? Because we're not willing to make this overbearing restriction. So, and Bifrons, yes. So jurors rarely speak out, guys. Like, and it's incredible to have like an in-depth interview with 3 of them, 3 hours. Like, that's just incredible. KC Dog says, I was surprised they felt Hilton was being fake/hood, trying to relate in closing. They actually felt offended as they are all very educated. And I think part of that was just the timing of the switcheroo, right? It seemed like it was too much of a contrast from what we've seen the rest of the trial. Because they did specify, you know, there were some other moments where in more of a friendly way, I think they said, she would be like, oh, okay, sis. And I think they were referencing like with Taisha Alexander, you know, whatever they said back and forth there. But they were like, that wasn't enough to make it land or seem genuine the way closing was delivered. So, and very interesting, it seemed like all 3 of them were on the same page with that. Even though they said, like, look, we think she was working with the best that she had, right? So they weren't just like, we hated Hilton, but they were like, that was weird. That didn't really land with us. But at the same time, what else did she have to work with? So, STS says, oh, we got an update from Simon. Vets want to wait a week to remove stitches and cone. So another week. 1 more week of cone of shame. Oh my goodness. And yes, guys, I don't know if I can redirect to AV, but like, of course I'm going to watch it. But we can start wrapping this up and we can get on over there. FFS and Flush of the Gods out here just sniping, going bananas. Look at this. I think they flash for you each time I click up a different one, right? Look at FFS here. So big thank you to Flush of the Gods and FFS. Co-conspirators here, sliming the chat with gifted memberships. K Grammar is joining in. And hold on. I know I saw something from Classy Beats, and I want to shout out Classy Beats because you guys,
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody?
Wednesday, you guys. Which either means Mike, or it means it's Club Classy tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. What a Club Classy this is going to be, right? We just have this verdict yesterday. We're turning up tonight. It's going to be a great time. I know Classy gifted memberships. It is not in my starred thing. I'm scrolling. I'm looking at it, looking for it. Let's see. There we go. I found it manually. Thank goodness. I hate to miss things. So show Classy some love in the chat. That'd be super amazing. Good to see you. Hope you're enjoying some time off this morning. I bet you did your show, but it seems like you must be ending early if you're over here. So hope you're enjoying your day today. You're ready for a really good Club Classy tonight. I'm so excited. So let me drop this link here. This is Classy's channel. He does so much more than his music shows, which are awesome. Covers a ton of content each morning with a morning show that he does. But tonight we're celebrating. We're going to break out the slime panya. There you go. So make sure you're following Classy Beats if you aren't already. I feel like so many of you already know Classy Beats. Well deserved. You guys should know him. But come join us over there tonight. It's going to be a good time. K Grammar's out here gifting 5. Big thank you to K Grammar here. Drop some eagles in here. We got 5 eagles for 5 gifted subs. Big thank you here to K Grammar. Q just says, one more time for the positivity here. Pushing P. Pushing P. Thank you, Q. Thank you for all your support through this, too. You've been around this channel for a while and always very encouraging, so appreciate you. And then, hold on, I think FFS and... I see STS did a snipe, and then FFS, and then STS again. So the 3-letter names are going back and forth with it again. So big thank you here. Thank you, STS. And I want to get this link for AV. Get this link. I'll double check if I can redirect over there and make it easy. But I don't think she has redirects enabled. I know we taught Lead how to do it. And guys, I am working. I want to do a... There's only 1,000 of you in here. That's a lot of people. That's not what I mean. But it's not a full spoiler. I am organizing. I spoke to Max Shart already, and I wanted to speak to him first, and I'll get everybody else on board. Doug agreed that he'd come do an interview. We have some things that we want to talk about, some particular moments and sidebars in the trial that Doug has been saying, like, I can't wait. We can't wait to talk about them, but it's going to be after everything closes out and finishes out. So as soon as we schedule that, I think I'm going to combine that with what I want to do with Max Shart. We've got a lot of questions about these sidebars at trial, and I think both of them will have insight. But I spoke to Max first to plan it because what I want to do is, while we do this stream, we'll get them up for a panel. We'll pin the Next Level Boys Academy, right? This is an organization in Atlanta, in Fulton County, that helps. It's like a youth diversion program, gets the kids involved in extracurriculars, sports activities, gets them mentorships. And I've seen that Max Shart is active with them. He takes his son along when he goes and volunteers. And I just think, you know, we did such a great effort to raise awareness for something that's local to me. It's down here in Florida. And I appreciate you guys for the big effort with that angel tree gifting wish list. It's incredible. But at the same time, you know, a lot of this is focused on Fulton County, Atlanta specifically. So I wanted to think of something to do for something more local to Atlanta. And it popped into my head, this organization that Max Shart's always talking about. So I spoke to him first to set that in stone, make sure that's the right organization to do. So we're going to lock that in. We'll try to get Doug on at the same time and maybe some of the other attorneys. I don't know if that'll be a quick turnaround because I want to make sure everyone can make a schedule. But the reason I'm thinking of that now and telling you now is AV is also putting together a big like collaborator panel, right? So a bunch of the faces that you guys, you know, we shout out Mel all stream here. I'm sure you'll see a lot of familiar faces. AV is going to be doing a panel show. Don't know when it's scheduled, but it's coming. So make sure you're subscribed over there. And we are going to go over and watch her interview with Doug. Let's get AV7. And this is going to link right to the interview with Doug, but also hit that subscribe button so you'll catch that panel if you're not already following. And FFS says, Kat, we don't want to leave. Can you just walk away and leave the chat open for us to snipe and chat and whatnot? You know, I always wondered, like, I feel like there's got to be channels that do that. Like, isn't that kind of funny? It's just a testament to the chat feature on YouTube and the community itself. Like, I feel like I could do that and you guys would have a jolly time in the chat. I could join in the chat. But that shows that each channel is so much more than just the content creator themselves, right? It's the community. The fact that you could probably leave a chat open and people would leave it, it would run, the stream would run just like a chat room. So I love that you're saying this. I mean, maybe one day we can do something like that. Thank you again, still out here sniping. The K-Grammar sniping another one. And then Enjoy Every Minute, which is a great name. Also out here sniping a gifted membership. So big thank you here to Enjoy Every Minute. Guys, let's get over to AV. We're like 19 minutes late. If she started on time, sometimes she's a little late. So maybe we didn't miss 19 minutes. But let's go see her interview with the Doug, the Honorable Doug Weinstein. Linking one more time in the chat. And feel free to jump over there now. I'm going to have this, I'm going to check real quick if I can redirect us. I don't think I can, but we'll try. To the 7th power. Yeah, I can't redirect over there. So we're going to have to go over there manually, drop the link one more time, and I'll also put it in the description in case like this ends and you miss it. All right, so that's in the description, in the chat, and hold on. Oh, thank you guys so much. We have an encore here with the gifts. So thank you, Angie Lay, out here sniping. Thank you so much, Angie. It couldn't be a sniping fest without Angie sprinkling one in there, right? It makes it whole. Thank you, Angie, and love this here, we family. Appreciate you guys so much. See you over in AV's chat in a few moments here. So thank you guys for a great stream and especially sticking around for this Juror 71 read. You guys all have a good one. See you in 5 minutes, 5 seconds. Oh, and I'll end it with ABC's a Steal to give you time to click AV's link. So there we go. This is a secondary shout out to Jimmy Winfrey's ABCs, but it's all
A as in Alicia, and B, Your Honor, as in Barry. C as in Colette.
G as in Goldfetter. K as in Kitten. M as in Magic. P as in Perfect. C as in Colette. U as in Unbelievable. V as in Victory. W as in Wonderful.
O for objection. S for sustain. E for buffering. E for Pepto-Bane. S for slime, my friend, and you as in what you mean. I as in I don't recall. M as in may I sleep. All the ABCs of steel makes me feel so real. Yeah, they keep on spinning round. Never gonna let me down. G for gavel slams down P. T for tell 'em anything. R for rights we stand. I for infinity. Life's a courtroom dance. Keep your stances strong with ABCs of steel. You can never go wrong. Oh, the ABCs of steel makes me feel so real. Yeah, they keep on spinning round. Never gonna let me down. they keep on spinning round. Never gonna let me down. Oh, the ABCs of steel makes me feel so real. Yeah, they keep on spinning round. Never gonna let me down. Never gonna let me down. Never gonna let me